Bro.
Yeah, what, what's up? You were saying something?
Bro. I just said bro. I thought it was funny.
Bro.
Bruh.
But yeah, Bomb Rush Cyberpunk. What do you
How do we
guys
get in
think?
this fucking house?
This is a school.
Who are you? Homeschool. Wait.
Yo, do you hear that, guys?
Sounds like multi-level marketing.
What the fuck?
No!
Ready to begin their future!
No.
Okay, here at Chuck University, we believe in an education for the future.
No, we don't.
We are not like other schools that give you lectures and boring homework assignments. We give you lectures on subjects that are innovative, like Robert Kiyosaki. So, is everyone excited?
More or less.
I have a question.
Hey.
Who here wants to be a millionaire?
Yeah, me.
You?
Me?
If I had $1 million, would you want it?
Yes.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
duh.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, if you're offering.
If you're offering.
Yes, please.
So, more millionaires are being created now than ever before.
But that's just because of inflation and shit, right?
It is easier to access like global markets and such. How would you become a millionaire? Is that feasible for you?
I'm gonna
It
make
is.
comics for a living.
How do you do it? How do you make money?
Through my art. I'm gonna be a millionaire through my art.
I'm making an OnlyFans.
Okay.
I compromise and just do like smut.
Yes!
I got half of them
Yes!
horny.
High five.
Crime.
Smut! Smut!
Let's say that you were to dedicate the rest of your life to making as much money as humanly possible.
Okay.
What would you do? How would you go about it?
Smut.
Yeah.
What the
Okay.
fuck?
Crime page.
So, I like money. It's pretty nice. I grew up with a pretty poor house. I know what it's like to have parents like fucking crying over bills, and it's like, fuck, okay, that's not what I want for my life.
Never seen that.
So occasionally, I've ran into like actual millionaires. You know, just like going around in life.
I found 5 mentors.
These 5 easy tricks.
Yeah, right? I'm gonna teach you the secrets that I've learned from these men.
New Lamborghini.
Number 1, befriend a millionaire.
Yeah.
Number 1, be born with $1 million.
Get lucky.
So there was this one guy, he brokered a couple of like corporate mergers in his early 20s, and then he was like, wait a second, I could just live in like a shitty apartment and not work again. So he did that.
Wait, what the fuck do you mean merger to... What the fuck does that mean?
2 large corporations were merging into one
Yes.
mega
He
oligarchy.
brokered the
And
merger?
he was the accountant who was there, and he got a percent pay,
Oh.
which was like a super low, but it was a large enough company to where he was pretty well set.
Oh, okay. Sure, cool.
Another guy just is pretty okay at investing, middle class dad dude, retiring at 55 with like $1 million. Another guy is gonna retire in his 70s. And they all gave me some different advice, you know, don't use your credit cards and get into debts, don't marry a poor person. But the one thing all of them told me was to read these 2 books. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill.
It's always the fucking book.
And that's a fucking weird thing written in the 1930s, we'll get back to that.
Oh my god.
The other one is Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki.
That's the
And
guy. That's the
Sharon
guy in the
Lecter.
title in the thumbnail.
It is Robert Kiyosaki time!
Woo!
Yeah.
So, this is one of the books they all told me that if you want to be rich, you really need to read and study, so I sat down and I took it seriously. It opens as pretty much an autobiography of Robert Kiyosaki, and he talks about growing up how he had 2 dads, but not in the gay way. Straight. He had one real dad, and then one spiritual dad who he met.
Spiritual dads.
He has a
Jordan
poor dad
Peterson.
His dad's
Jordan
dad.
Peterson.
and a rich dad. So, he grew up in Hawaii, it's the 1950s, right?
Uh-huh.
And he grew up in the small town, Hilo, I don't know how you pronounce it, but basically
Hilo.
it's a mill town.
Let's get the caption right there.
Yeah.
Hilo. It's
So-
like the Jack Stauber album.
Is it?
Yeah.
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 So, this entire town is basically owned by this one plantation. And it's split into 2 big neighborhoods. So on one side of the river, you have all the rich people who like own the mill or are executives at the plantation. So that's where all the white people live. And then you have the other side of the river where all of the workers at the plantation live. And that's where all the native Pacific Islander and Japanese immigrants are. So Robert Kiyosaki is a third-generation Japanese-American immigrant. But his dad does not work at the plantation. In fact, he is the head of the Department of Education in Hawaii for the entire state. However, it's still education, so he doesn't make shit. And they live on the poor side of the neighborhood. However, technically, the way the river works, it wraps around his house just so that when it was time for Robert to go to elementary school, he went to the elementary school on the rich side of the river. Now, this was horribly fucking traumatizing. I want you to imagine this, right? Imagine going to school and people there have more money than you. And then they constantly brag about their toys that you don't have, and they talk about their parents' beach house, and you ask if you can come, and they say no because you're a poor kid, Robert. Robert, you're fucking poor, you're not cool, and you can't come with us. And he cried.
I'm sensing a little bit of projection here, Tyler.
No, this is in the book.
Okay.
It's in the book!
He, really goes into how hard his life was because of all these rich people who had more money than him. And when you're reading it, it's really hard not to think, dude, your dad's the fucking head of education, you're middle class. I'm sorry you don't have a fucking new car, but you're 9, get over yourself. But he's really upset about this, so he goes to his dad and is like, hey, why aren't we rich? And he was like, well, son, I wanted to go into education, and when you make that choice, you kind of decide to never be rich in your life. And he was like, well, I want to be rich, what do I do? And his dad said, well, you have to get money. And he's like, where do you get money? And his dad was like, a job. And he was like, I'm 9. And his dad was like, figure it out.
Good luck.
So Robert talks to his friend... Robert talks to his friend Mike. Mike is important. Okay, everyone?
Mike. Can we get a last name?
Michael Porton.
No.
Okay.
There is no last name.
I'm going to call him
His
TV's
name is
Mike.
Michael Porton.
Mike Porton. Alright. So, Mike Porton is a poor kid. Like Robert. He's the only other one in the rich kid school. So Mike understands the pain that Robert is going through right now. So Robert's like, hey, do you want to be business partners? I have an idea that's going to make us as rich as all the other kids. So they run around, they knock on everyone's doors, and collect toothpaste tubes.
What?
Like,
For what? For why?
And then they amass this giant collection of toothpaste tubes, and they put it on their washer. And then Robert's mom finds it. And she's like, what the fuck are you doing with these toothpaste tubes in my washer? They're dirty and getting all over the place.
Face mom.
And Robert was like, it's a business secret. I can't tell you. Please just let me keep collecting more. And then his mom said no. And then Robert went, well, I respect my mom. All young boys should respect their mom. They care a lot about this. There's no way that a middle-aged mother is writing these lines. So I must do this business proposition tonight to clean this area. And so he melts all the toothpaste tubes. And he pours it into little circle casts that he's made out of nickels and dimes. And starts minting his own coins with Mike.
What?
What?
Wait,
Making
like out of the
Fucking Kiyosaki bucks. Kiyosaki
Because back then, the toothpaste were made out of metal, because this is Hawaii in the 50s.
Oh.
Oh, so he's forging money.
Yes.
Dude made his own fucking economy.
How did he melt the metal?
Yeah, wait. Heat.
With the dryer?
With the power of Satan.
The sun.
What? That's not real though, right?
Praise the sun.
Kiyosaki and Satan are close associates, but we'll get there. So anyways.
But I thought that's why he was using the dryer was because it heat up the metal and it was just
No,
not
dude,
hot
that's
enough.
where they were being stored.
Like in the dryer?
The washer.
No, on top of the dryer.
Oh, okay.
Or the
alright.
washer, yeah.
The dryer.
Whatever the case, his dad comes home, sees he's minting money, and something you get to know about Robert Kiyosaki's dad through this book is that he's a fucking, stickler for the rules. And he's like, son, you're breaking the law. Did you know that counterfeiting is a felony?
I'm gonna have to turn you in.
Now, son, I'm really proud of you. Most people talk about wanting to make money, but they never go out and do anything. You did something. What you did was illegal, but you did something. And for a 9-year-old boy, this is very impressive. But never counterfeit again. So Robert's like, well, fuck. Okay, how do I make money then? I've tried fucking everything. And then
Fucking everything.
Robert's dad is like, you know what? You should ask Mike's dad, Mike Porton. And Mike's like, my dad? But my dad's just as poor as you. He went, oh, okay, kid. Well, your dad might look poor, but that's just because he's fucking insane and has a lot of money and is choosing to live below his means. We have the same banker, and my banker always raves about how great your dad is at business. You should talk to him. And so Robert goes, great. So he has Mike set up a meeting with his dad. Next day at school lunch, Mike says, all right, we have a meeting. My dad says we can meet him at his offices on Saturday when we need to be there at noon. So they show up at his office building. He doesn't give them a ride. These two 9-year-old boys have to walk from their house in the suburbs to the city, to the office building, to get there at noon. Then he makes them wait for 2 hours in the lobby as he yells at other employees.
Yep.
And then he makes them sit there for 10 minutes while he just types so the tension can build. And then he lets them in. And he looks at Robert and says, okay, my son has informed me that you are interested in being educated in business. Is that correct? And Robert said, yes, sir. And he said, all right, I've decided to offer you an opportunity. I'm not going to teach like those fucking teachers at public school.
Whoa!
Public school's fucking shit.
Whoa!
Public school's teaching you to be slaves.
Whoa!
Intrusive.
I'm going to teach you like a real teacher. I'm going to give you work to do, and through doing the work, you're going to learn. So, are you in or out? And Robert's like, can I ask what work we're going to be doing first? And Rich Dad said, in or out? 10, 9, 8,
Wow, okay.
7, 6. And Robert goes, in. And he goes, okay, right now I need you to go. So it turns out what Rich Dad's business is at this point.
MLM.
No.
Oh, well.
Yeah, surprisingly, this is the 50s. Those weren't a thing yet.
Well, they were. They kind of were.
Not MLMs. You're thinking more Ponzi schemes.
Amway. Amway was in the 50s.
You might know more about this than me.
All right, continue.
But I have some things to say about MLMs we'll get to.
Emily's still a thing.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Rich Dad owns, like, restaurants, and the equivalent of 7-Eleven before franchising was a big thing, when, like, kind of weird, stingy businessmen in the community would own it, like Rich Dad. So he says, you two need to go work at my 7-Eleven for 3 hours. Right now. Go run over there and start working. I'll pay you 10 cents an hour.
What?
This is 1954. That's still not anything. One of you do the USD calculation.
I got it. I have an inflation calculator.
Well, Robert's like, well, wait a second. I have a softball, or not softball. I have a baseball game today. And then Rich Dad goes, take it or leave it.
Wait. You said 10 cents an hour? That's like equivalent to like $1.50 or something, if I'm correct. I don't know the exact calculations, but
It was below minimum wage.
It was
for
definitely
sure.
below minimum wage. Like, are we talking about child labor
$1.
right now, by the way?
$1.
$1.
Yes, these are 9-year-olds.
$1.
Child labor, yeah!
So, these children go to the 7-Eleven. And this is Hawaii in the 50s before air conditioning.
Hell yeah.
So, in the summer, businesses would get unbearably hot. So, the way they would cool them off is they'd open all the doors and windows. But Hawaii, a lot of it is beach, right? And so when you open up doors and windows, sand gets in. So what Robert and Mike Portant had to do was sweep all the sand out of Rich Dad's 7-Elevens for 3 hours every Saturday.
For $1 an hour.
Yes.
So $3 every day. Damn.
So at first Robert loved this because, you know, he lived with a family with constant bills and stressed about money, and he didn't get, like, you know, pocket change. So he went to the comic store and started buying comics and started a lifelong path to addiction to a medium that will never be fulfilling or pay you back.
Hey! Just like me!
Just like me for
But then he started realizing, bro, I hate my life because every school day I go to school and school fucking sucks, and now Saturdays I don't get to play baseball. I go work at this fucking 7-Eleven.
Yeah, that's how it starts. Woo.
And then he did this for a month, right? And he's like, and Rich Dad hasn't even talked to me. He's paying me 10 cents an hour to give up my Saturday, and he's not teaching me shit. So Robert complains to his real dad, his poor dad. And his poor dad's like, wait, he's having you do what for 10 cents an hour? Okay, child labor laws are a thing, right? So Robert feels empowered all of a sudden. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna fucking quit. I'm not gonna do this shit anymore. So he tells Mike Corden, tell your dad that I want a meeting with him. I'm demanding more money or I quit. So he gets another business invitation. Alright, show up to my office at 4 p.m. on Saturday. So he shows up at 4 p.m. Rich Dad makes him wait for 2 hours in the lobby again. And this time he made him come on the day where he was firing 2 employees. So he could see 2 people get fired before him when he came in.
Yeah.
Nice.
So Robert comes in and he's talking to a fucking adult and he's 9. Let's keep this in mind for this scene. He goes, hey, we made a deal. You said you would teach me about money. Well, I've worked for you. I've worked for you hard every Saturday, and you haven't held up your end of the bargain. And then Rich Dad goes, how do you know I haven't taught you anything? And then Robert goes, well, you haven't given me any lectures. And then Rich Dad goes, that's how they teach you in school. Didn't I fucking tell you that I don't teach like fucking schools? Rich Dad has some serious temper problems. Like, exclamation marks everywhere. Will constantly see like he shouted. But it's hard to tell how much of Rich Dad being fucking manic this is and how much of it is the bad writing. This book is written like Wattpad fanfiction.
Hell yeah.
What?
They never use the word said. It's always Rich Dad coughed, Rich Dad screamed.
Yeah, because in school they teach you that said is dead.
Which is such bad advice. So every time they need Rich Dad to give emotion, they'll go like Rich Dad yelled or Rich Dad clenched his fist and pounded on the table and screamed. And it's like, well, anyways, Rich Dad's like, I don't teach like regular school. Think about it. You sound like most of my employees and you've only been working for a month. Imagine the last month of your life and how fucking terrible that was. And multiply that by 50 years. And this is what life is like for most people. Think about every day when you got those 3 dimes at the end. How did you feel? And he said, I feel kind of cheated. And it was like, this is how every person feels every time they look at their paycheck. It never feels like enough for the shit you have to go through to get that money. And this feeling will never go away unless you choose another path. And then Robert's not fucking listening because he's 9. And he's like, hey, you better give me 25 cents an hour or I'll quit. I'll call child labor laws on you.
Oh my god.
And then Rich Dad's like, and now you sound like the people who used to work for me and now are fucking homeless. And Robert's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And he's getting scared now because he's 9. And he's like, wait, so what am I supposed to do then? Am I just supposed to take this 3 cents and smile? And Rich Dad's like, and that's what everybody else does. And you want to hear something fucked up? Most people don't even get their full paycheck. They get a paycheck and then the government takes a bunch. And Robert's 9, this is the first time he's heard about taxes. He's like, wait, people just let the government steal their money? And Rich Dad smiles. The rich don't. You see, the difference between the rich and poor, and the reason your dad thinks I'm a crook, is because we have different mindsets. Your dad goes, I don't pay my employees a living wage and therefore I'm a bad person. I go, if you pay your employees more, it's just going to make them go further into debt because they don't have the mindset of the rich. They exploit themselves by working for me. Giving them more money won't answer their problems because the rich, they don't work for money. Let me give you an example. Your dad, when does he pay his bills? And Robert's like, the first of every month. And Rich Dad's like, exactly. I pay my bills at the end of every month. Your dad pays everybody else first. He gets his paycheck and he immediately gives money to everyone else. What I do is I keep some money for myself at the beginning of every month to do investments. Then, if I don't have any money left over for bills, that motivates me more to find a way. So we're going to take our first note. We're going to pay ourselves first.
Whoa. Why does that say Hell Satan down there?
Jews ruined our country!
What the fuck?
That's a spoiler for later in the lecture.
Kiyosaki.
It's Kiyosaki.
We can't write in the board, but pay yourself first. And this is a trick that works for a lot more than money in your life. It's just a general, like, self-motivation thing. If you want something done, just fucking do it before all of your obligations. And then your obligations will have to get done because they have to get done. For example, back when I was like full-time art was what I was doing with my life, I made a point of, I'm going to finish all of my art, and after that, I'm going to do my homework and chores and basic human self-care and relationships with people. And as a result, my art always got done because it had to.
What was it, good art?
No, it was shit. But that's kind of the pay yourself first mentality in action. And here Rich Dad gives another pretty good piece of advice, and that's the poor and middle class say, I can't afford that. Your dad always tells you you can't afford a new bike, right? What the rich say is, how can I afford this? Because that forces you to be creative and start coming up with ideas. Now that sounds like a bunch of like fucking mumbo jumbo, but there's some value in that. So recently I was applying to law school, right?
Yep.
And law school's really fucking expensive. And I was like, I don't want to be in debt. So I want to find a way to do law school without being in debt. And eventually I realized, if I did it part-time over 5 years, took a train, and then kissed a few people's asses, got a Senate scholarship, that could do it. Instead of going, fuck it, I'm going to wait for 3 years to save up, I started asking questions and forced myself to be creative. When I was an undergraduate, I really didn't want debt either. And so what I did at Towson, a lot of the ways I paid for school was scholarships and my parents being nice to me. But I also did shit like, so I had this honors college housing stipend, right? But when COVID hit, they forgot to stop giving it to me. So I just saved an honors college class till my last semester. So I kept giving that stipend even though I wasn't living in any housing. So that was basically just a free $4,000 I was getting every year.
Nice.
Or I would do shit like, they forgot to give me a counselor, and so I started taking extra classes without paying the extra classes fee. So it's always just going, how can I save more money, and challenging yourself. If you want something fancy, use that to motivate yourself to find a way to make the money to get it. That's what Rich Dad says to do. And you know, Rich Dad, great guy. You want to learn from him.
Definitely, yeah.
So Rich
I want to
Dad,
get yelled at and do child labor.
Fucking abused.
well, I got the news for you because this is Rich Dad's next piece of advice. So he says, now that you've heard all this, Robert, do you understand what I'm teaching you? And Robert's like, yeah, I do, thank you. Alright, so I'm going to really teach you to be rich. You're not going to work for money anymore. Because I'm going to stop paying you.
Fuel units.
And Robert's like, wait, what? And he's like, yeah, you're going to work the same 3 hours every week. But now, I'm going to give you $0 an hour.
What? What? The fuck?
Thus freeing you from money. And Robert's like, hold up. Well, how am I supposed to buy comics then? And then Rich Dad asks, use your brain.
Why doesn't he ask, why am I doing this work then?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm just
so
working for you.
Robert keeps working for 2 months with Mike.
God damn it!
And then all of a sudden, Robert comes up with an idea. So he has a lot of comics he's already read, right? Because he bought them from the comic store for 10 cents. So what if he and Mike created a used comic library in their garage where other kids could come in and look at his comics? So he put all of his comics on display and charged people 20 cents to come in for an hour and read all of them. And then he realized this was taking a lot of extra work, so he decided to get his younger sister to man it for him and paid her 10% of the day's profits.
Which is 2 cents per person?
Yes. And they worked that out, and then so many kids went to his comic book shop and his garage that he was making more money than he ever was working for Rich Dad back when he was being paid.
Nice.
So
Nice.
then they made so much money, not only did they buy new bikes, or buy new comics, but they bought fucking bikes and cool shit. And then Rich Dad saw this and went, aha, they are learning. It is time to take them to stage 2.
He hits the big red evil button on his
Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Episode 2.
da 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 da.
How much time are we at?
24 minutes.
Alright. Cut.
Why must you do this to me?
Alright, so Rich Dad takes him out for ice cream. Now this is important because throughout this entire story, Rich Dad has been shown to be like super fucking stingy.
Yeah.
Like he will not spend money on anything or anyone.
Rich Dad?
So, yeah.
Okay, just making sure.
So the fact that Rich Dad is taking them out for ice cream is like a big deal.
Yeah.
And he bought them 2 scoops.
Whoa.
And then he says, so I've seen you kids have genuine potential. So I'm here to make you an offer. Instead of paying you 10 cents an hour, I'm going to bring you on my board, and I'm going to pay you $4 an hour.
Oh, shit.
Whoa.
That's
And-
actually minimum wage. Yeah.
And they were thinking, like, they're 9. Okay, all the shit they could buy in 1950 for $4 an hour. But then they remember, the rich don't work for money, so they say no. And then poor dads are at $5, $6, $7, $8. Okay, you're playing hard to get $25.
What?
1950. This is more than most of his like employees with master's degrees are making. But Robert and Mike, important, say no.
They're stupid. They're actually
Rich Dad
stupid.
goes,
Stupid. No.
they say we'd rather keep working for free. And Rich Dad goes, good job.
No way! Your lesson is don't work for free, you idiots!
You're now gonna get to hear the true formula of the rich because you've made this decision. You're ready for it.
That's worth about $294.
An hour!
Do you want to hear the secret to be rich, guys? The formula.
What's the
Work for $294 an hour!
All right. Buy assets, not liabilities.
No! Work for $294 an hour! What the fuck is wrong with
Okay. So, an asset is something that puts money into your pocket at the end of the month or year, right?
you? Uh-huh.
And a liability is something that takes something out of your pocket. So, for example, your car is a liability because every month you're paying insurance and shit.
Ah man, I love car dependency. Yeah! Woo!
Yo, hope
All right.
gas prices shoot up another $6.
Hell yeah!
You, Ukraine war for
I'd
gas.
love $30 for a quarter of my tank.
Yo, let's go.
Alright, so can any of you think what would an example of an asset be?
Stocks.
Dogcoin.
MLMs.
NFTs.
Kiyosaki.
Kiyosaki.
Kiyosaki butts.
So he breaks assets up into 4 main categories, which I found kind of genuinely helpful. The first is real estate. So that's a piece of land you own, and you can rent it out to people and get money every month.
L.
Well, if you don't like landowning, you can also have paper income, or paper assets. And these are things like owning a hypothetical piece of a company. So you have stocks, or IOU from a bond. This is probably the only kind of asset anyone in this room actually has. If anyone owes you money, you technically have a paper asset.
Oh.
Roland and I have a paper asset.
We do?
Summer
Where the
Nights.
fuck is my money?
We co-own the rights to Summer Nights,
Ah.
which is an intellectual property asset.
I guess, yeah.
If we made money on that, we could do stuff.
Hey,
for
buy
kids.
Summer Nights.
Yeah, go
It's
check
on
out Summer
Steam.
Nights
Buy
on
Summer
Steam,
Nights.
bro.
It's not that good. Calm down.
Buy
guys.
Summer
I'm
Nights.
gonna go buy it right
Don't
now.
do that.
No, you're fucking not, Jackson.
Why?
It's not that good. Calm
Oh
down.
no, it's great. It's the best game ever made. That's all your fake fans.
Buy Summer Nights.
Okay. You guys are fucking posers.
The next class is businesses. So literally owning something that sells a good or service and produces income for you.
Hey, I think I technically own one of those.
You don't, according to Kiyosaki.
How do I own a business?
We'll talk about it.
Fucking shut up.
And the next kind is commodities. So like if you own a rare piece of art or a fucking stupid monkey NFT, that's technically a thing you own that you
Yo,
sell.
I'm rich. I got it.
So if you want to be rich in life, what you do is buy things that put more money in your wallet at the end of every month or year, and you don't buy things that take money out of your pocket. It makes basic sense. That being said, almost nobody owns assets, and so we're all...
Because they're really fucking expensive.
We'll get to that.
Dang it.
Dang it.
And here Robert says the only thing that actually gets him in trouble in this book, your home is not an asset. So from the Kiyosaki perspective, every month or year on your home, depending how your agreement's worked out, you pay money on your mortgage, right?
Yep.
And then once you own your house free and clear, by the way, does everyone here understand how a mortgage works?
No.
I do.
Not really.
No, not at all.
Basically, It's a loan you take out on your house that you pay in increments to eventually own it.
Oh, nice.
Do you want to add anything?
Nope, that's about it.
Mortgage.
So, but once you pay it off, you don't actually stop paying money on your house. For example, Michaela's mom owns this house, right?
Yep.
Free and clear. She's about to move out, which means we have to start figuring out paying for it, right?
Oh.
And it turns out, just to pay like the landowner taxes and shit, and all of the like different bills, it's $3,000 a year.
Nice.
Alright.
So you're losing money.
Uh-huh.
You're not gaining money. So is that an asset or liability?
Liability.
Here's a problem. Asset and liability are actual legal terms with real legal definitions.
And these are not those definitions.
No, they're not.
Oh, fuck.
Because a house is an asset, even if it's also a liability or something like that. I
So,
forgot that.
what fucking Robert Kiyosaki does is he lists the actual definitions and then goes, that sounds confusing, right? Now,
What
sure
the
you
fuck?
found it out there. Think this is perfectly fine, but for the
Are you
average
too
person,
fucking stupid to understand how owning shit works?
For the average person, Rich Dad's definitions work much better. But according to the real actual definition of asset, which is something you can use on your bank statements to make yourself more qualified for a loan, your house qualifies as an asset. Why? Okay. So, real estate property almost always goes up in value over time.
Yeah.
There are exceptions, obviously. But the basic way it works is that there are more and more people happening. So there's less and less space. That makes space more and more valuable. So a house becomes more and more valuable over time. So if you buy a house, what you're going to use to get your next house is probably the house you've already bought. For example, my parents are just entering their 50s. So they're in like their old, financially stable years. They paid for their new nice people house, the one you were all out for the Vallis lecture.
It's a pretty sick house, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They paid for that by selling their old house, which had appreciated in value, so they could make some money off of it. Because of this, it technically counts as an asset. But Robert's like, if it's taking money out of your pocket every year, and you're just hoping vaguely someday it'll be worth more, who the fuck knows how much more that's gonna be, but it'll be worth more, maybe? That's not an investment, that's just throwing your money around. But
Also, you just need a fucking house.
exactly! He keeps talking about, like, don't buy liabilities. The house is not an asset.
Excuse me, Mike Portman's dad. Where do I live? How do I live? Where do I go to live?
Don't. Fuck you. Kill yourself.
Mike Portman, I need a place to live in.
Just get ritual.
Alright, so, after
Kiyosaki.
learning the difference between assets and liabilities, Robert is now allowed to sit in on Rich Dad's meetings. And he sits in and listens to him talk to his bankers and lawyers, and he watches him pay his employees as little as possible. In fact, he was on the boards when Rich Dad started busting all the unions and firing people.
Oh wow, that's so cool.
Started busting down.
He was there, and he even got to whisper suggestions on how to help.
No, fuck. I fucking hate. Oh,
Unions
God.
are bad, guys.
No!
Unions
Stop!
are anti-capitalist.
We love America.
Alright, and in these meetings, Robert learned a few more important Rich Dad lessons that you all need to pay attention to.
We
Do I?
Yes!
Yeah, right.
This guy's busting unions. I don't trust him on how to help me.
Do you trust him on how to make fucking money?
No!
Well, alright, the difference between cash
You're
flow
locked in this room with me.
and capital gains. Does anyone know the difference between cash flow and capital gains?
No.
These are actual real things.
I don't even know what that is.
Is this the asset liability thing where he just doesn't give the actual
No, this is real.
Okay.
The way he explains it, and I think this is actually pretty good, is cash flow is someone who owns a cow and sells the milk at the market every month. Capital gains is someone who owns a bull and kills it and sells its meat.
So it's basically, one is you own something that's constantly making you money. The other one is you sell the thing for money.
Yes.
Okay.
So Robert Kiyosaki says he learned that cash flow is better for retirement purposes. Because that means you have a steady income every month of money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Your financial goal should be to have more money coming in without you needing to work than your expenses. That way, you can wake up in the morning, go, I don't feel like doing shit, and then not do shit. That should be your goal. You can only do that through passive income. If you invest for capital gains, for example, that's like buying a rundown house, fixing up and selling it for more, or buying an excuse me.
Throws up a little in his mouth.
Buying an NFT loan, selling it for more, that's capital gains.
By the way, this is the most I've ever heard about NFTs in like 2 months.
Yeah.
So I feel pretty good.
Yes.
Good job.
Fungible.
I haven't heard about NFTs since like fucking January.
I mean, like, what's their to hear? They just like, hey,
They're cringe. People are scamming each other.
Yeah.
People are
Yeah.
sad. The alt-right likes them.
rich people are scamming each other. So
The search results for NFTs went down the same time Folding Ideas videos stats went up, so I feel pretty good about that.
Nice.
Nice.
Good job, Internet Crusader. What was it? Oh, yeah. So capital gains are a really unreliable way of making money because, first of all, there's that constant stress. Do any of you guys know NFT bros?
no, thank God.
Yeah, I know.
They fucking suck because they're always worried about the next trade, and that like haunts their entire life. Or like people who are constantly involved in the Wall Street stocks, like you can't ever take your eye off them. It's a 24/7 kind of thing. And also it's not reliable because you never know what the market's going to do. So holding something and hoping someone stupid will buy it at the wrong time is just a kind of bad plan. So invest for cash flow. This is Robert's advice.
I think that's good advice.
Yeah, there's a reason that this book was recommended by every millionaire I've talked to. It's got some sprinkles of okayness.
It's got good advice mixed with also be rich, lol. No.
Just try and make
All
it
right.
away.
Stimulate.
There was a story in this book, however, that like really rubbed me the wrong way and kind of like ate at my soul a little.
Ooh.
So the next part of this book that we're not going to spend too much time on, but Robert grows up and he becomes pretty rich. He does well. He starts a surfer wallet company in the 70s.
Surfer wallet, like
Like
Wallet.
nylon wallets for surfers.
Like it sticks on you while you're surfing.
okay, cool. Sure.
And Playboy magazine featured them.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
And then they made a shit ton of money, and he used that money to invest in real estate, and now he's rich. And then he wrote a best-selling book, not this one, and he started touring around, and he went to Hong Kong being interviewed by this lady. And she did, the standard interview stuff. Oh, tell me about your book, blah, blah, blah. You're so cool, great, yeah. So after the interview's over, she was like, look, all right, 1-to-1. We're both writers, right? How do you do the whole thing where you write a book that becomes a New York Times bestseller, make a bunch of money? And he's like, can you just look at some of my writing and give me some feedback on it? And he's like, well, actually, I did some background research on your writing before this interview, and I think it's amazing. In fact, I read it in your, it's got this really good flow to it. You've got a good voice. You clearly explain things. I was only going to read one article, but I found myself reading 5. You are a better writer than me. That's not your problem. See how this book says best-selling author? If you want to become a best-selling author, you need to learn how to sell. So I recommend you join a multi-level marketing company. Who here knows what a multi-level marketing company is?
My dad was in one of those.
Film Roland's face.
Roland's fucking freaking the fuck out.
Get the camera!
Alright, we're losing it. Film Roland's face. MLM bad. Ed, come up here and tell us about your
that's what you
dad's
said
experience
earlier.
with MLMs.
Okay.
And then I'll tell you with
Major
mine. We
league
can all
moron.
share our collective MLM trauma.
I considered getting into an MLM once in my life.
Me too. Okay, come on, Ed.
What is it? What is
Ed,
it?
tell us about
What's that
MLM.
cheese? What the fuck?
Okay. Wait, what's up?
Nothing.
Oh, okay. So, am I giving like the rundown overall,
Yeah,
or?
tell us about your experience.
Okay,
What
okay.
you know about it.
legs, man.
Okay, so basically, my dad, he got involved in like some MLM thing. It was like this organic, like.
Keep going.
100%.
Some audience members don't know what MLM means.
Oh shit! It's multi-level marketing. Basically, like I'm not entirely. So basically, how it works is that it's So one person at the top, they got all the money. The big business owner or whatever, they start handing out work and shit for people lower, like on a lower level than them to like do, and then the people on that lower level hand out to work to other lower level people, and they get paid for doing that. So the people on the lowest level do the brunt of the work, and then they get paid, but most of their money gets taken by some of the people up above who get paid for that.
It's a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah.
The idea is that when you enter, you don't just sell the product, you also sell work to other people. Like you sell them a job, and then those people can sell a job, and it keeps going.
So a multi-level marketing company, you've probably seen people on these on Instagram, like weird, estranged friends suddenly posting about knives you can buy and great opportunities for you.
All the high school people.
Yeah. So they'll take a shitty product, right? Some random, like, again, a lot of them I've seen is knives. These fancy kitchen knives that are really overpriced, right? And they tell you to directly market. So you just go around, knock on doors, cold call people, and try to sell them. Then you start training people under you. So my job is to mentor 10 other people to work in this business with me. And then for being their mentor, I get a tiny bit of their fee. And my mentor gets a bit of my fee, and it goes all the way up. They're also horrible work environments. So you can sit down if you want.
Oh, shit. Buy Raycon, by the way, Raycon.
Hell yeah! Promo code Shaka.
Stop, we're not even sponsored. No, more money.
Go for it.
Oh yeah, so I got my wisdom teeth removed
I'm sorry.
this March.
Nice.
And they gave me the good shit. I was on Vatican. And you gotta understand, I'm tiny. I'm like 5'4".
Wakes up 3 days later.
So
Hey, you.
when I take drugs, they hit me a lot harder than other people. So I took Vicodin. I'm fucking out of it, right? I'm still in like a lot of pain, but I'm like... And then I get this message that someone has a great opportunity for me. Something that I could be making a 6 figures every year after a year and a half of training. And I'm about to graduate college. I'm desperate for a job. I'm fucking terrified. And so this hit me at the right moment. And so I make it to the interview on Vicodin.
Oh, jeez.
There's blood coming out of my mouth.
What? Tell me you got the job.
Oh yeah, of course I did. It's an MLM. They're not gonna not give you the
Dude,
job.
just take the money, please, God.
No, there was no money because they wanted me to work for free for the first 6 months.
Oh, God.
We need Vicodin drug addicts
it's
to
coming
come
full
here
circle.
and bleed out of their mouth on the floor.
But it's so messed up because like I went there and I was sitting in the room and the other applicants, it was like the epitome of desperation, right? You saw like someone who looked like they were tweaking out. There was this old, very sad like dad guy who was telling me that he just got divorced and lost rights to see all of his
Yo,
children.
epic wife guy.
Yeah.
Divorce, yeah.
He
That's not what a white guy is.
Epic divorce man.
Epic divorce
And
man.
he just moved here a week ago and he's trying to get his life down together. This one woman, she lost her job because of COVID and now her retired parents are moving in and she doesn't know how to pay the bills and they were
What the
talking about it in the
fuck?
lobby. And like, if you're ever in the
I'm just
room
high.
with this many desperate people, you always know like, this is scam potential right here.
Yeah.
And then the interviewer kept telling me like how inferior I was in comparison to their great company and how they would like break me down and turn me into something better and it really made me feel uncomfortable. And there was also like, the vibe was bad. There was just this fake corporate smile everywhere. You could just feel your soul getting ripped apart. And I worked at Walmart
It's like a fucking.
for a year. You know? Like this was bad. MLMs are bad. But Robert says they're the greatest thing. Robert is like, if I had nothing and had to start over again, I would work at an MLM because they give amazing business opportunities. And I'm really glad that they're taking off, and I think this is really the future of home ownership.
Kiyosaki.
Yes.
What did he sell? Did he? What was he? Was he with? I forgot all the MLMs.
Ball.
Robert
Sex
Kiyosaki
privilege.
is in no way affiliated with any MLMs. That's why he can be objective when he's rating this fine industry.
But
The industry of business in the 21st century. And you know why he really likes MLMs? The truth. Because Rich Dad taught him a lesson.
Okay.
You have to give in order to receive. You know, every time Rich Dad was having trouble in the business meeting, he would just give more money to his church. Because whenever you give, the world, and even God will give back to you.
This is not good advice.
That's dude.
It's like a fucking like hippie millionaire.
This is fucking televangelism. Wait a second.
Oh
This
my
is
god!
This is the
You know
shit where
what's
it's like
fucked up?
plant a seed with money and
Here's
it
the
will
thing.
grow a money tree.
Here's the thing. Poor people always talk about how greedy rich people are because like, they don't pay their employees and they're fucking up the environment. But yeah, you know what those poor people are doing to help other employees and save the environment?
Nothing.
Nothing. All of this charity money is coming from rich people. Because rich people give. Because you know how you get rich? Really? It's not by taking. Those people are crooks and they get kicked out of the world fast. You make money by giving. Do you know what Henry Ford did? He didn't abuse his workers and take jobs.
Well, he did do that.
No, he didn't. No, he didn't. He gave America. He gave you cars. Before then, cars were a luxury item, only for the elite and upper class.
Well,
And Henry Ford gave the car to people like you. That was a generous.
I don't have a car.
And that is why Henry Ford was rich.
Shout out
He
to
was generous.
car-based infrastructure. Let's
Yeah,
go.
car dependency.
Gas is like $6 or some shit. I don't know. I don't have a car.
What time are we at?
21 minutes.
Me and Vaughn are fucking rich.
Gas was $4.15 last time I got it.
Let's go.
I used to make jokes
Thank you,
about
Henry
gas
Ford.
getting up to $3.50.
Thank you, Henry Ford. So cool. Vladdy poop.
Bloody food.
So anyways, and MLMs are the only modern day business that really put this in their structure. Because you know how you get rich in MLM? It's not by being a good salesperson. Sales is important, but it's by bringing out the best in your team, which is an education you can only otherwise get from the Marine Corps.
What the
And
fuck?
give you the bonding experience of Marine Corps service.
What?
Okay? This is how good these institutions are, and you
Bro.
get better by giving the gift of a
I
job and education to other people.
I think I'd rather be a Grecian soldier than MLM. Not only would I have that bonding experience, but I would be a Grecian soldier. I would be surrounded by all these people in tight leotards, and we would just be hanging out.
I think you're using
300.
humor to protect
What the fuck?
your employee poor person mindset. And because it's really
I gotta turn that mindset into a grind set. You're right.
all right. I'm glad to hear that. You're ready to hear more of Rich Dad's wisdom now.
Yes, please.
Because we're gonna get to part 4, the final part of this book.
Alright, all
Die.
He is unbreakable.
Sell your
Oh,
organs.
Jackson, you don't know shit yet.
You need to give. Sell your organs. Sell your
gold.
plasma.
Buy gold, yes, but we'll get to
Buy
that.
gold.
Sell your stands.
Okay, so part 4. I think you guys might have noticed that the advice in this book's been a little wishy-washy so far.
It's been 50-50, yeah.
It's been kind of vague and kind of out there and more intellectual.
Oh, yeah.
Ben Roberts said there's a reason for that, and it's because there's no one way to be rich. Becoming rich is more about developing a mindset and values and an approach to life. And once you have that, you can conquer your obstacles. But we've already done that. The rest of the beginning of this book was all about building mindset. This last chapter is teaching you practical examples and skills of what you can go do right now. Yes.
Or you could just be rich. You could just have money.
Robert wasn't rich. He was born poor, but he was inspired because he went to a rich school and he was fucking traumatized. And so he went and invented a Velcro wallet. Well, he didn't invent it. He just, bought the rights to it and sold it because he was willing to go out there and do something, Roland. That's what it takes. You just have to go out there and do something. And I'm going to tell you what you can do right now.
Sell comics.
Suck dick.
The best way to make
more.
money starting out is in real estate, according to Kiyosaki.
Oh,
okay?
yeah. I agree with that.
And the best trick is to use something called OPM, other people's money.
OPM.
One Punch Man.
The OPM Wars.
So,
Sell opium.
Sell opium.
what you
Sell
do is you get a $0 down real estate deal, and then you borrow money from a bank to buy the real estate, and then you sell it to someone else, and you make money.
What the fuck? That's just real estate, though.
No,
Extra
what he did.
steps.
So, this is Robert Kiyosaki in his 20s. He has no money, right?
Okay.
And he sees this apartment building, and he sees it's kind of run down. He's like, you know what? I bet I could buy this. So he goes to the owner, is like, hey, he knows in his head this apartment building is probably worth about $80,000, right?
Yep.
He says, I'll pay you $55,000 for it. And the owner's like, okay, actually, I do kind of want to get out of this business. $65,000. And Robert's like, all right, deal. Will you sign a paper, and I'll get you the money in 3 days. He does not have the money. But then Robert talks to someone he finds, you know, just a rich person he has a connection with, and he buys the house from him for $75,000, and then Robert just pockets the change.
What?
So middleman.
Great way to start out.
Middleman.
Here's another way to get started in real estate investing. Go buy homes at the foreclosure office. Because there's a lot of poor people who are really desperate because their houses are being foreclosed on. What you do is you negotiate with them, get them to accept a $0 down deal for less than the house is worth, then get a loan for it, then find a renter, and then have them pay off the interest on your loan.
This requires that you know renters and foreclosures.
Well, what you do for the foreclosure is you literally go to the courtroom and you sit around and look for desperate people.
Yeah.
What if I had
Fair
a
enough.
human soul?
Sell your soul. Give.
And
Give!
I think you're
Undertale.
starting to show your poor person mindset again. Because the rich don't think in right and wrong. You could say, for example, that...
Rich people have no morals.
That's true. That's why they don't engage in hypotheticals.
Yeah. Alright, and here's
But
my
like, what if
favorite-
I didn't have money? I don't engage in hypotheticals, sir.
Sorry, fuck you.
Here's my favorite piece of advice given at the end of this book. He says, for a lot of people, money is literally life and death, and that's sad, because for people like me, we realize it can be a game, and it's the most fun game you'll ever play. And there's all these creative little rules. Like, for example, I don't have time to read through all of the real estate deals I sign up for, right? So I just sign up for all of them. That way they have to hold it for me to go over and look over the contract. And I put in something to all my contracts saying I can get out of it if I call my business partner and he disagrees with the purchase, right? But here's the catch. My business partner is a parrot. So, whenever I go there and I don't like the deal, I'll just call home and pretend I'm talking to my business partner who's really a parrot. And I'll make a whole scene. That way they have to hold all the good deals for me, and I don't have to look at them till I'm ready to purchase. There's a word for this in law.
Bullshit?
It's called fraud. Not legal.
Wait, he just wrote this in a book and published it. Holy shit.
Look at everything I've done!
You want to know how to get rich? Commit fraud.
Come at me! Arrest me!
Scam people.
Motherfucker!
Scam.
Can't do shit.
Alright.
Real?
And now that you know, the trick is to buy real estate with other people's money and to get rid of your poor person mindset and to buy assets, you're ready to go and be rich. But there's one last thing. The best way to become rich is to practice and increase your financial intelligence and work out your brain, right? Well, there's actually a board game that's really good at helping your brain. It's like Monopoly, but kind of for a modern age. It's called Cash Flow. And this is a great game. In fact, it's so great, it'll increase your financial literacy. And he just repeats that over and over for the last chapter.
So is he selling a game called Cash?
He is selling a game called Cash Flow.
God damn it! It
And you want to guess how much
advertisement.
you want to guess how much this board game cost?
How much?
Too much.
$200.
Fuck off! It's fucking done!
But if you really want to learn the secrets to investing, you have to buy the DLC.
DLC for a board game!
This is like the guy who sold a book that's like how to get rich and it was $1,500.
I'm gonna fucking kill myself!
How much time is left on it?
29 minutes. Oh, yeah.
Alright, so some reporters talked to Robert and they're like, hey, isn't it kind of sus that you have a game that's supposed to teach people to be rich that costs $200 plus and $100 of DLC? Is it still rolling?
It is still rolling.
Okay.
That was on me. I apologize.
And Robert was like,
Fucking-
yes, it is an expensive game, but I want you to think about this. What's more expensive? Not learning about education and going to school, not learning how to make money, or $200. Think about it. Kids go to college, right? How much does college cost?
A lot.
$200.
How much in debt are all of you?
A lot. Too much.
Zero.
I am going to die in debt.
Wouldn't cash flow have been a better investment? A game that actually would have given you a real education and taught you about money?
Will it though?
Yo, I got
Did you
one.
buy cash flow? Do you know what's in it?
Yes! I do know about cash flow.
Fuck!
So I got a virtual copy.
Oh, of course.
There's a virtual copy that's free on Robert Kiyosaki's website today. It's multiplayer. We can all play it.
Oh hell yeah!
Why would I want to do
Let's play
You
cash
don't want to play
flow.
cash flow? It is
Totally
an
play
interesting
Cash
game. So the reason it's $200 is because it's a game that comes with a accounting tax sheet on it. And you go around this inside board with this ugly looking rat thing, because you're in the rat race.
Yeah.
And every space you get a business opportunity, and you have to choose whether or not it's a good deal. And you start out with different like job cards, and one of them is a doctor. And if you get the doctor, you're just fucked because you start with a shit ton of student debt and you can never win the game. Then, once you get out of the rat race, you get into the fast track. And at this point, you've won the game. But you still keep playing because you just get more and more money. So while the other players are stuck in the rat race, you just run around and make more and more money at them.
Like an asshole.
Yes!
Guys, look, I won!
Play the game and watch everyone get better deals than you until every single person's out of the rat race or they give up.
Hell yeah.
So who wins? Is there
There's no winners or
There's no
losers.
winners.
This is a game
Capitalism.
that's educational.
It's survival.
Survival.
Survival board game.
And the $100 add-on basically adds like a mock stock market to it.
$100.
For a stock
For
market.
the stock market.
Yo.
And think about it, because you get so many opportunities
flow
to
to
make
location,
cash
cheap
mistakes and cash
DLC
flow with
included.
fake money. So you're not making it with your real money, and thus you're increasing your financial education, which is priceless. Robert recommends not only do you buy this game, but that you play it 10 times to really let the lesson soak in. By the way, this game is fucking long. It takes like 5 hours to play each time.
I don't
Nice.
want to play this game anymore.
Well, yeah.
No, you have to play it 10 times, and then you have to teach it to 10 other people.
So what? That's like
I don't want to play this.
50 hours of game.
Okay, that was Rich Dad, Poor Dad, everyone. How are we all feeling?
I'm sad. I'm depressed. I'm never going to be rich.
Now, do you understand? Are you ready to be a millionaire? Now, this advice that I've gotten through my travels.
I'm already ready to scam people.
All right, good. This book made a lot of money. This is a very successful book. To this day, this is one of like the #1 personal finance books. You will find it at every library and every financial literacy. All of those like scam financial guru guys, you'll always see a copy of Robert Kiyosaki in like the background libraries of their shots. He is like a staple. So this is 1997, I believe. 1998, they immediately come out with the next book. Robert Kiyosaki and Sharon Letcher release The Cash Flow Quadrants. Rich Dad, Poor Dad 2.
He made a sequel to his two dads? Yes, four
It was
dads!
a company called Rich Dad Company.
Oh, we'll get to the Rich Dad Company. Right now, that doesn't exist. This is Cash Flow Incorporated, okay?
Question.
Yes.
What if you don't have a rich dad?
Well, Robert Kiyosaki will be your rich dad because
Hell
he gave
yeah.
you the same financial education his rich dad gave him.
Robert Saki.
Kiyosaki's gonna be my dad?
Yes!
Hell yeah!
It gets disturbing.
He's like,
Kiyosaki is our
he's like
daddy.
the new Mike Horton.
He is our dad.
Dear Kiyosaki. Thanks for bestowing us with this wisdom.
Stop it.
Thank you, Daddy.
Don't call him daddy.
Stop, please go to hell.
We'll get there.
Oh my god!
Alright, so Rich Dad Poor Dad took me about 7 hours to listen to an audiobook, right?
Okay.
The Investing Quadrants is a 9.5 hour long book. The Cash Flow Quadrant, my bad. The entire premise of this book is explaining their new logo.
What? And it's, you draw a swastika, I swear to God, Tyler.
9 hours of logo.
No,
Why McDonald's is yellow?
Well, fuck, it won't draw. I'll put a picture on the screen. Okay, so it's like quadrants, right?
Yeah.
Someone Google the cash flow quadrants on your phone so you can see it.
Oh no!
The cash flow what?
It's 4 lines, right?
It's like this graph, right? And there are 4 sections.
And then they have a little line on each of us.
Shut the fuck up, Roland. There's an E, there's an S, there's a B, and there's an I. Okay?
I see it.
These are the 4 parts of the cash flow quadrant. E stands for employee. Okay? Employees get all of their money from their paychecks. Employees are the most heavily taxed out of all of the groups. They pay the highest percentage. Okay? And the employees are most likely always going to be poor for their entire life. Employee is a bad quadrant. You don't want to be in. Then there's the S quadrant. That's self-employed. That's people who completely work for themselves. Let me give you an example. So I work for Altius. Altius is a company that, maybe I shouldn't be saying this, but does people's homework for money. If you have homework, you can give me as an Altius writer money through the program and I will write it for you. If a college catches you do this, they will kick you out. But it's not illegal. And I've made $50 writing a single paragraph for someone.
That's so funny.
How old were they? How old were they?
Sophomore college. I also wrote a paper on ethics and morality for someone in their master's program in theology.
Can we get first name, last name, date of birth?
Some of them I do.
Social
My
security
favorite
number?
one.
One time, you asked me if you wanted, you asked me if you could write a paper for me, and I was like, I don't need any papers, but thanks. I was like,
There was this cop, and he had to fill out these paperworks on, like, you know, not murdering civilians. And I filled out his, like, safety protocol.
No,
No! Alright, I'm not self-employed.
You gotta catch that bag!
That's E quadrants, okay?
Yeah.
Because I'm working for a company who pays me. S quadrant's something like what Roland does, where he comes up with a comic, and if it goes viral, he makes money.
And it never does.
Well, yeah, but you're 21. You have to keep making projects until one sticks. That's how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Roland is in the S quadrant primarily. The next quadrant is, and that's self-employed and small business. The next quadrant is B. This is big business.
bitch.
Big business is good.
Walmart.
This is a yes. This is a good quadrant. But there's a better quadrant. The I quadrant. This is for
Investor.
investing.
No, don't!
This is where your money goes to get more money. Okay. So, does everyone have a basic understanding of the quadrants?
Yes.
This is going to be very important
yes.
for everything moving forward. The E quadrant is...
Employed.
Employees.
Okay, tell me about it.
Oh, that's
They work for other people. They're dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah, employees are fucking lesser humans.
Slaves.
Okay,
Look
It's
at you.
you can do anything to them. It's ethically okay.
hell yeah.
pretty much. They're doing this to themselves.
Yeah.
Alright, S. What is S, everyone?
Self-employed. That's me. I'm hot and please
Okay,
date
tell me about self-employed.
I sell comics and you sell your own thing, and we like ooh.
Okay, every time Robert Kiyosaki talks about the S quadrant, he says, these people tend to not like having people above them do things themselves. If they had a theme song, it would be, I want things my way.
That's not my theme song. My theme song is an Anime Anaguchi song. Sorry.
But I think it's so funny that he repeats this line every time, because none of the other quadrants get a theme song. But this one does, and it's, I want things my way.
So I'm the only one that gets a theme song of all of this.
Yes.
Silence.
Alright, tell me about the B quadrant.
Big business. Big box stores.
Yeah.
They got big money. Big.
Large.
Okay,
Humongous.
Gargantuan.
Humongous.
next. What is the I quadrant?
Investment. Buy thing to sell thing or make money off of thing.
And what's better, cash flow or capital gain?
Cash flow. 100%.
Alright, you guys know more than most investors. You're on your way to a real financial
I don't believe that for a fucking second.
Yeah.
Okay,
Tyler
Robert
Perkins.
Kiyosaki and Rich Dad tell me so. Moving on, I'm gonna give you some quizzes, right? My dad has a friend, and she owned a food truck and expanded into a restaurant, and now she owns a small brick and mortar restaurant. And she doesn't do most of the cooking these days. She kind of, sits behind closed doors. What quadrant is she in?
She's in. Well, wait. She's still self-employed, right? Or did she turn into a big business? How big is this restaurant?
It's just a single brick and mortar.
So self-employed.
Yes.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Here's a problem that a lot of self-employed businesses have. And this is one of the few good Kiyosaki piece of advice.
Okay, I'll take this to heart.
Alright. So, the dream of most small business owners is to eventually not run the business, right? They don't want to pass it down and make their kids work the business forever unless they do, and I've seen that happen, and it's kind of fucked up to watch. But for the most part, they want to, build up a business, make money, sell it, and make it big. A common small business goal.
Yeah.
The problem is a lot of businesses aren't very good. They don't have a good system. So, mostly what happens is the business is falling short and the owner goes, fuck, and works a shit ton of extra hours, saves the business, and keeps it running. Or they have a really, let's say they own a restaurant, right? But they also know how to make the food the best, and so they put that special touch on it whenever the critics come in. The problem is you can't upscale that business because you are the business. You are the thing that's making money. You're just working even harder than employees to do it. If you want to make a small business that you can get investors to help you scale up, the business needs to work without you. The difference between owning a small business in the S quadrant and a big business in the B quadrant is if you can step away from the business for a year and go fuck off to Tahiti and come back and still have the business running.
Well, fuck.
See you in Tahiti, motherfucker.
Okay?
Yeah.
So, and this is where Robert says the real secret to being rich. If you want to be rich, what you gotta do is you start out in the S quadrant. Now that's gonna suck. The S quadrant is the hardest quadrant to be in. Have a fun life, Roland.
Alright, I'm good.
Because you will be working harder than everyone else you know, and you'll be making less. No one will believe in you, and they'll laugh at your dreams, and you will just grind like that for years with constant doubt. That's the S quadrant, right? But if you develop financial literacy by going to MLMs and reading Rich Dad books, what you can do is learn to build a business system that doesn't need you at the center. Then you grow into a B quadrant business. Okay? This is something big. This is something like selling nylon surfer wallets. Okay?
Okay.
Then you use the money from your B quadrant business to become an I quadrant investor.
Cut.
Alright, so I just saved you 9 hours. That was the book explaining their new cash flow quadrant logo.
Thanks, Dad.
However, thank you, Rich Daddy. In between these explanations, there's a tiny bit of Robert lore we start learning about.
Yeah.
The most interesting piece, remember when you guys were asking where does Rich Dad and Robert Kiyosaki think you should live?
Hawaii.
No.
Inside my own ass.
Where it was like, if the house is a liability, what should you do?
Oh, yeah, that.
Well, Robert was homeless.
Oh.
Oh.
Remember that surfer nylon wallet company?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
That actually failed and went bankrupt
That's
Sick.
really funny.
in his late 30s, early 40s.
Not the wallets.
And now he's millions of dollars in debt.
Oh.
He is living with his wife and they're both homeless.
Oh.
At first they were living outside and then they started living in someone's car.
Oh.
It's not even his own car.
But
If he owned the car, that would be a liability.
Oh my god!
they started working on their S quadrant business while they were homeless instead of getting a job. And then grew that into a B quadrant business and made enough money.
Oh, it worked.
What was that business? Was it an MLM?
We don't know about the business.
Oh, okay.
We get surprisingly little detail about this business
Ooh,
that
I
they
guess it was
made.
pretty legal. But...
He sold drugs.
Alright. And the other really important part of lore we learn in this book is that, oh yeah, Rich Dad was in, or not Rich Dad, Robert Kiyosaki volunteered to fight in Vietnam.
Uh-huh.
He was part of the Air Force.
Nice.
And while he was in the Air Force, he got a call from his poor dad. And he doesn't like his poor dad.
Yeah.
You know, because
Oh my
he never
god, this
spent...
fucker.
Poor
Because
dad
he was
was poor,
poor.
so he always kept working at his fucking Department of Education job, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so he was spending less and less time with Robert and was never there for him, unlike Rich Dad. He always told Robert he was too obsessed with money and needed to be happy with other things in life. We fucking hate Poor Dad.
Yeah, fuck poor
In
dad.
fact,
Poor Dad.
we stopped calling him anything else besides Poor Dad. He calls his real dad
Imagine being
Poor
this
Dad.
petty. God, I couldn't do this to my dad. I love my dad. Shout out to my dad.
Oh my god.
So, poor dad notices that there is a lot of corruption going on in Hawaii government in the 70s at this point.
Yeah, it was fucked.
And he was like, dude, I can't stand by this anymore. I'm gonna run for governor.
No!
And Robert was like, but wait, you're a Republican. Republicans are prejudiced against in Hawaii. You'll never win the election, especially with these hippies overrunning everything. And poor dad was like, I know, but I have to stand up to this corruption. And so he runs for office, and he fucking loses. It's a landslide in the other direction. And then his opponent, who was poor dad's old boss, because he worked for the Hawaii state government, right?
Yeah.
Said, okay, you're fired, and you're never working for the Hawaii state government again.
Damn.
Everything, Robert's dad, poor dad, has multiple PhDs. He is super fucking specialized to work with the State Department. He no longer, his super specialized education is no longer worth shit because he can't work in Hawaii. And so he kind of is destitute. He cashes out his 401k and tries to start an ice cream franchise. It fails, and then he dies in complete poverty.
Oh.
Uh-oh.
Okay, that was Cash Flow Quadrant, everybody.
But that's the book.
At the end of the book, he fucking dies.
Yeah, my dad fucking
That's what
died
you get for being
Now, but not before there's an ad for Cash Flow and the next book coming out. So this book talked a lot about my previous businesses in the B quadrant, right?
Is this why you kept messaging us like it keeps going deeper?
Oh no, we're so shallow.
Okay.
How much time are we at?
4 minutes. Sorry.
Okay.
I
So investing, right? Investing's where you make put your money to make more money, but we didn't really go into that in the cash flow quadrant. So this is an entire book to teach you about investing. It's called Rich Dad's Guide to Investing.
Oh my god, pick something else for a name. Just stop with this shit.
What's happening to Rich Dad in this meantime? Did he die?
Oh, we don't know who Rich Dad is.
Well, it's
So-
Mike's dad. It's Mike Porton.
Yeah.
It's like Alfred Porton or something.
Go.
Look up Alfred Porton.
The first book came out in 1997, made a shit ton of money. It was on the bestsellers list for 3 years in America. That's the cultural relevance this thing has. When I talk to most like old white guys who are in their like 50s and 60s, they know the name Robert Kiyosaki.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Where's I going with this? So in 1998 they made Cash Flow Quadrants. 1999 Silence. 2000 they're out with this masterpiece. This one's even longer than the others. It is 12 and a half hours.
Bigger, longer, and uncut.
Yes. Alright, and it starts out with a flashback to Robert Kiyosaki's childhood training in financial literacy.
No,
And he
the
did-
time when he was a child laborer
He was in
man.
high school now and he's sitting in a rich dad's meeting, right?
Yeah.
What the fuck is this shit, Naruto?
Yes. So Robert has to watch all of Rich Dad interviewing people for jobs. And he's watching people like beg Rich Dad for a job that's not going to pay them enough to pay their mortgage, but it's a job and it's something. Because the 70s was a recession in America.
Yeah.
And eventually Robert's like, dude, why are you making me do this? This is just sad. I hate watching how desperate these people are. It's disgusting. And then Rich Dad goes, well, I want you to pay attention because if you listen to what they're telling you in the public school system, which is bad, you're going to end up on that side of the table begging a man like me for money. Now, if you choose to become an entrepreneur and an investor, you'll be sitting on my side of the table. And I want you to think about which side of the table you would rather spend the rest of your life sitting at. Welcome to Rich Dad's Guide to Investing. Fast forward, it's the 70s. Vietnam War has just ended. America lost.
Major L.
Alright?
That's the
So-
best style of our life. Yeah.
Kiyosaki has to finish his 4-year term with the military, right? He's learned that he really hates the peacetime military because it has all the parts of the military that suck, like, you know, a shit ton of order and people yelling at you and not expressing yourself ever and being with a bunch of smelly guys, but none of the fun parts, like killing people and flying planes and explosions. And he's like,
Chemical
man, this shit
warfare.
fucking sucks. And so he's on base in Hawaii, and he has like a year before his term's over, and he has to go into the real world. He's 25. he doesn't know what the fuck to do with his life. When he was our age, he signed up for Vietnam, and then he went and got traumatized, and then he came back, and he's like, damn, what do I do with my life? So he goes over to meet up with Rich Dad for the first time since, he's gone off to war in Vietnam. And he meets Rich Dad and Mike Porton at Mike Porton's new house. Mike Porton is really fucking rich now. He owns like this nice mansion. He has a wife, and she has this nice little kid, and they've got like smart electronic shit moving around. It's super fucking cool.
What year is this?
The 70s.
What? They have a smart mansion?
Yeah, it's fucking crazy.
We use our cash flow to teleport into the future.
Alright, so...
We cash flowed into 2000.
So they start talking about nice things, right?
That's
And
the
then
power
Robert's
system,
like,
cash flow.
guys, I've decided I know what I want to do with my future. I want to be rich. So I've been saving all of my paychecks to come to you guys and invest with you. And then the Mike Porton's wife notices, like, oh, this is going to get awkward, leaves the room with the kid. And then Rich Dad puts his hands on the table. He's like, Robert, you can't invest with us. You're not legally allowed to invest in the kind of investments we do. It's because you're poor. You're not an accredited investor. This is a real thing. If you make $200,000 a year as a single person, or $300,000 jointly as a couple, or you have $1 million net worth, you are known as an accredited investor. This means you're allowed to invest in deals that don't meet certain government guidelines. This means you can invest in corporations before they go public, which basically means people who are rich get first access to all corporate purchases and deals. This is real.
That's kind of stupid.
Well, it's to protect people from making... Because you can also easily get scammed outside of the government protections.
Yeah, that's true.
And the lack of government regulation led to the 1929 crash. But then the rich people were like, but bro, we could be making more money, unlike these stupid poor people. And the government was like, oh yeah, you're right, we love rich people. Okay, here you go. No regulations here. So... Robert was like, fuck, so I can't even invest with what you're investing in? And they're like, sorry, Robert, we're too far ahead of you. And then Robert was like, wait, what if you use my money to invest and then you just give me the percent of the money I put in? And Rich Dad was like, we could do that. But Robert, we think it's time that you make your own path.
Go fuck yourself.
We've taught you all the financial literacy you need to know. Now, go out into the world and do it.
Always talking about cash.
Ba-da-da-da-da-da.
So this is when Robert starts talking about his anger issues.
About Rich Dad's anger issues or his own? Oh gosh.
So he's like, so I wanted to start screaming and like smashing glass on the table, but I was able to keep it within me. And this anger issue is actually something I still have today. When I'm at business meetings at Cashflow Incorporated, I want to like scream at my accountants and like...
His company is Cashflow Inc.
Yes.
Yeah, dude.
God.
Yeah,
I want to like scream at the lady at the desk, but my wife helps me not abuse people. She really brings out the not anger issue in me, and that's
He
why.
brings out the part of me that doesn't fucking hurt people.
And that's why I love my wife. I love my wife so much. She's good. I really actually like being around my wife. My wife is good. I love my wife.
Okay, so
My
there's
wife's
some
good.
shit that's about to go down. I've noticed something that you're emphasizing.
Oh god, the wife. Kill wife! Kill wife, gone.
We
I
also
wonder-
start going into Robert's Vietnam trauma.
Guys,
So-
Vietnam, wait.
Robert talks about how he did and saw horrible things that no human should ever have to do or see in Vietnam.
Yeah.
Agent Orange going crazy.
And he was like, but those things made me stronger. Sometimes I talk to people about investing and they're scared they're going to lose their life savings and something I'm pitching to them. And I think, wow, they're scared to lose their life savings? I used to risk my life every day fighting for capitalism.
Hell yeah.
And they're
Fighting
scared
for
to
the cash
lose
flow.
$10,000. It's kind of pathetic and it's really hard to sympathize with them. But I don't let my anger issues get the better of me. My wife has helped me with it. I am like fire. She is like water. Alright. Scam likely. Hey, have you heard the good news of Robert Kiyosaki?
Wait, what?
I'm putting him on speaker. Hello? Hello? They didn't pick up. All right.
Wait, what? Who did you just try to call?
A scam call I just got.
Oh, okay.
Dude, I've been getting them so much lately.
Yeah, it's terrible. Alright. Oh! And this is when... So Robert, before leaving this room, he asked Rich Dad, okay, like, you gave me a lot of advice, but I just don't know how do I get started? Like, what do I do? And Rich Dad goes, how? You sound like an Indian chief.
What the fuck?
How would he go do?
So
That's kind of an important question.
Wait, what? What happened? Wait. I was yawning. But...
Racism based.
Oh, no.
Okay. And so Robert was saying, and he really regrets being this annoying to his rich dad, because now, like, he'll be on a radio show, right, and a caller will come in with a question. And he says something like, okay, so I've saved up $10,000. Should I invest in the stock market or real estate? And Robert sighs. He's like, oh, he's already asking the wrong questions. You shouldn't invest unless you have a plan. So he asks you, it depends. What is your income plan? And he goes, I don't understand what you mean. And Robert just shakes his head. The plan is what you need to become rich. You have to think about the future. For example, when you start driving, do you know where you're going to go? Yes, you have a plan. You have a destination. Trying to make money without having a plan is like trying to drive without having a destination.
Okay.
You know, they talk about one of the greatest real estate purchases of all time is when the Europeans bought New York City. Because they bought it for a bunch of blankets, which were worth about $15 equivalent back then. And now New York, real estate's worth millions. Greatest business deal of all time. But you know what? With the power of compound interest, if the Native Americans had a financial plan with that $15 worth of rent, they could have rented it. Enough money to buy New York and some of LA left over.
Bro, those Native Americans should have just had a plan. They should have known where they were going when they got in the car.
Not very bullish.
Not very bullish.
Plan for an hour and a fucking half. And you're like, whoa, so what is a plan? They only ever give one example of a plan in the book. Rich Dad's plan. A plan he learned from playing Monopoly. Ready?
No, don't take this advice. Don't listen to anyone who's like, so I was playing Monopoly, right?
4 green houses, 1 red house. That's a good plan to become rich.
No.
4 green houses, 1 red house.
Isn't that Red House a hotel?
Oh yeah, a hotel. Important. Everyone, write this down. 4 green houses, 1 red hotel. That is a good financial plan.
Jackson, what
Come.
Coffee creamer.
coffee creamer with the milk.
Caramel
Okay.
macchiato.
So, now this all sounds pretty abstract, right?
This sounds pretty fucked.
But this is the first part of the book, when I help you build your mindset. Now we're at the end part of the book, where I give practical, real-life examples to get you started on your rich dad journey.
4 greenhouses, 1 red house.
So, for example, there was a kid, he was in high school.
Yep, that's me.
And he was in a school bus, driving to school one day, and he saw this apartment building outside the window and noticed it was kind of run down. And so he asked about how much it cost, and then he got a loan to buy the apartment building, as well as the land around it. Then, he rented it out, some of the land next to the apartment building, and he rented the land for so much that it paid for the entire loan. And then he started using the extra cash flow to fix up the apartment and rent out all the rooms. And now he's able to retire before graduating high school. 4 green houses, 1 red hotel.
The fuck?
Alright.
How did he get the money to buy it to begin with?
He got a loan, Roland, OPM.
What the fuck? How do you get a loan in high school?
Okay, so now we're at the end of this book.
No, wait, what? No.
Rich Dad.
No. I have a very important question.
You are not listening to Rich Dad's teaching, Roland. You want to talk. And that is what's blocking you from receiving
Yeah, you just want to
knowledge.
fucking talk, Roland.
What is knowledge?
My hand is up.
Okay, what is your question?
He was in high school, right? He got a loan in high school?
Yes.
What credit did he have to get a loan?
He used OPM. Which
To
is
get
what
a loan!
investors use.
To get a loan!
Investors want
This story is bull, is what I'm saying. I don't believe it.
Bankers make money when you borrow money, and they love giving money to real estate investors.
They don't make money when
because
it's
the
like
house is worth the money they're giving, so it's no risk for the banker. That is why you use OPM as leverage, Roland. This is what Rich Dad advocates. And they're
Rich Dad's a fucking idiot!
They're always naysayers. There's always
He's a
fucking
fucking
doubters
MLM!
out there. You know what the doubters say? The doubters say, oh, you can't do this here. Everywhere I go, I travel to South Africa, I travel to Phoenix, Arizona, I travel to New York, and they say, you can't do this here. Well, you know what, buddy? I'm doing it right now. And you know why I can do it and they can't? It's a matter of mindset. Because I think like a rich person, and they think like poor middle class people.
Rich Dad's
And the
out here
way
using
you break
OPM
out
to
of
sell
this
OPM.
mindset is to increase your financial education. A great way to increase your financial education is to play cash flow.
What's happening?
This is fucking
So-
ridiculous. I can't believe. There's no way you told me that story and like with a straight face and everything.
In the same year, this is 2000 that book came out, right?
Yeah.
12 and a half hours. The same year they released another 8-hour book called Rich Dad's Guide to Making Money Without Cutting Up Your Credit Cards. So this opens with some weird trauma dumping.
Okay.
Robert's like, so I've been gaining weight, and my wife's been pointing out.
Come.
So this book opens with some Robert Kiyosaki trauma dumping. So he starts talking about how his wife has been, noticing that he's been getting fatter lately and his shirts don't fit. And so he's obsessed with dieting. And he always loves those commercials that promise there's this one little pill that'll help you lose weight without exercising or eating less, because I so desperately want it to be true. Yes.
Meth.
Even though I know it's not real. And
Doesn't lie.
financial predators do the same thing. They lure you in with promises that they can make you money without, going to school and getting a good job and saving and being frugal. This is not one of those books. This book is only for people ready to put the work in and learn.
Well-
This is not a get-rich-quick scheme. So if that's what you're looking for, you will not enjoy this book. The book is literally called How to Get Rich Without Cutting Up Your Credit Cards. He then goes on to talk about how most financial advisors tell you to live below your means. To get a job that pays a decent amount and then live in a smaller house, keep your expenses down, drive a shitty car, right?
Or don't drive any car at all.
Yeah.
Car dependency is stupid. Ride the bus.
And then what you do is you use your excess money to invest in, your company's 401k or whatever, and live off the income from that, and just kind of be frugal about life. And Robert Kiyosaki says this is bad. Not only is this is bad for you because it rots your soul. Because as you get older, your taste will get better, and you'll want expensive cars and good wallets. And if you deprive yourself of the good things in life, like Louis Vuitton and brand name cars, your soul
Good for the
will
soul.
literally decay, and it will kill you, and it will make you depressed, and then that'll make you be meaner to your loved ones, and then that'll make them hate you, and then it'll go into a seat of resentment that'll actually affect your health. And there was this one lawyer I knew who this happened to, and he got a heart attack and he died.
Damn, hurts the homie.
Get Louis Vuitton. This
But
is
you know what else
this is the
is bad?
best advertisement for Louis Vuitton I've ever heard.
You know what else
Louis Vuitton
happens?
or death.
That's not it.
Or
Not only does
go
it
fuck
kill your
yourself.
soul, but it makes you into a bad person.
What?
Because you can get rich by being cheap.
Excuse me, is Robert Kiyosaki judging my morals?
Robert Kiyosaki is actually a good person because he gives millions of dollars to charity. Roland, what have you done for the world?
Damn.
I've given the world Hitmall.
Hitball, baby, come on.
Yeah, Robert gave starving Africans food, so he wins.
Did he do it directly? Like with
Did he
his
fix the systems?
Did he
that
fix
created
the
starving
system?
Africans?
He's fixing the education system right now with his book.
with this
Teaching
What the fuck was I talking about?
You were talking about how it makes you a worse person if you don't buy Louis Vuitton.
Oh yeah, you know why? Because if you get rich by being cheap, you become a cheap rich person who doesn't want to give. And everyone hates cheap rich people because they don't give and they just make you resent. And they give rich people as a whole a bad name.
I don't know.
And so when people think about rich, they don't think about the great people who are, creating libraries and jobs, the Rockefellers of the world.
No.
They think about these cheap, scammy assholes who only care about saving money and making themselves rich.
The Rockefellers of the world. Damn.
Elon Musk base because look how he's helping.
No, shut the fuck up.
Bro made a
Rockefeller.
death tunnel.
Rockefeller's the guy who made cars popular.
He also, at this point, he's been doing it a little bit, but at this book it becomes painfully obvious. He story hacks. So he takes like classic fairy tales like The Ugly Duckling and then switches the moral so it's all about how you should be rich. Like...
Those poor duckling?
Yeah, the one duckling dares to be different, and he goes off to make a business, and then he looks ugly, but then he becomes a swan, is better than everyone else, and while they all drown in debt, he swims beautifully. Or the tortoise and the hare, they make it about money. But the most fucked up version of
How does that work? The tortoise and the hare.
The hare went really fast spending all his money.
They take Bible stories and change it a lesson to how good money is.
Jesus was a socialist!
Yes.
I'm not reading my hand.
Okay. But there's one line of the Bible that Kiyosaki hates.
With the part where he was a socialist?
The root of the love of money is the root of all evil.
Yes.
Yeah!
Kiyosaki talks about how good churches are, but he says, but there are some evil churches. Churches that pray, that teach harmful doctrine like the love of money is the root of all evil. And then he'll just go in paragraphs about how that caused him so much trauma as a kid. Because he just wanted nice things like his classmates. But then his Sunday school teachers and parents would tell him money is the root of all evil. And they made him feel guilt for wanting things. And that really fucked him up, and he had to grow up and work through that. That is how the Bible can be used for harm. The rest of it actually tells you to go out and make money. Don't work on somebody else's farm or you'll spend your life making them rich. Proverbs. The people die without knowledge. Hosea. The Bible is telling you to become financially literate, and the church is only reinforcing the bad parts.
The part where Jesus was a socialist.
And so, it's weird though, like the love of money is the root of all evil is like a phrase that makes Kiyosaki flinch, like throwing holy water on him. He like gets upset and
starts, like,
he goes into a rant whenever a character says those words. It's like he goes into demon mode. It's fun to watch.
He turns into a demon.
He's fucking cracked.
He's the money devil. Wait a second.
One
Chainsaw Man.
Oh my god!
He fucking dragon installs on you.
There is one good thing about this book, however. It is probably the most clear book on Robert Kiyosaki's theory of making money. It really lays shit out. So he gives an example of how, let's say you have $5,000, right? And you see a house you could purchase for like $100,000. So what you do is you go get a loan on it and you put the $10,000 down and the house is collateral, right? Then instead of using the money you got the loan for to immediately pay off the house full and clear, you get a mortgage on the house. So now you basically have two loans, one on the house and one to originally buy the house. Does that make sense? You now have $100,000, but you only have to pay the mortgage off in tiny increments. You have 30 years to pay it off. Okay?
Yep.
You use that $10,000 to hire other people, so you're not the one working on it, to renovate the house. The reason Michaela's mom and her boyfriend have not been here for a while is because they own a property, and they are renovating it right now, and they're doing all the work themselves. It has been consuming their life. They've been living there since like November in this unfinished home. They wake up at 4 a.m. to start painting. They're both full-time workers. They work every weekend on it. It's fucking hell, and I can watch it like break them. So don't do all the real estate work yourself. You use the $10,000 or $100,000 to hire other people to do it, and then you hire a property manager to look over the property and find tenants and take care of their problems. Then you charge rents and have the rent cover the monthly payments for both loans and a little extra. So now your tenant is paying off both of your loans, you're making a little extra on the side, and you have cash flow.
And then how's the tenant doing?
Tenant's fine, they're paying off your thing.
But do they have money?
Well, if they don't have money, you have a property manager to get them out and get someone else in. And because you had $100,000, you have some backup money to throw into it if you need to pay for everything while you find a new tenant for a few months.
Alright, I guess, yeah, that's fine, yeah.
This is the clearest outline of how to get rich in the entire Rich Dad series.
Okay.
It kind of makes sense. This seems like a good idea. I'm not going to do it.
No, I'm not. I can't. That's a lot. No.
The reason I'm not... Roland, I don't think you can do it.
Why?
Because if you have a lot of debt, you're not going to get a loan for...
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Yeah.
I'm lucky I have decent credit, and in 10 years with a lawyer job, I might be able to actually do this. But playing around with $100,000 of debt is just really dangerous.
Oh yeah, it is. Annapolis propane.
Okay.
Okay.
They can join the lecture. So,
You guys want to learn about Robert Kiyosaki?
so that is Getting Rich Without Cutting Up Your Credit Cards. Also 2000. 2 books, 1 year. Can they outdo themselves? Yes. 2001. Oh boy. We open with one of my favorite books in the series, Rich Kid, Smart Kid. This book is about how important it is to indoctrinate your children into the Kiyosaki
They
religion.
sound like children books.
Green eggs and ham. Rich kid and smart kid.
So
Wait, is that Michaela or Michaela's parents?
Neither. I have no idea what the fuck that is.
Okay.
Alright, so Rich Kid, Smart Kid. The school system is fucked, right? How much time is on the thing?
We're at 10 minutes.
Okay, the school system's fucked. Does everyone understand this?
Yes.
You go to school, and what do you learn about money?
Nothing.
How to count
I
it.
took a class on money. They taught me to live with 6 months worth of money.
Yeah,
I
they
know how
teach
to
you
find
shit
a podcast.
because the school system was actually designed by Rockefeller to teach you to become quadrant employees to keep you poor. It's a conspiracy. So school is fucked. Okay?
Wasn't this designed before Rockefeller?
School is fucked.
Okay.
And so you need to start teaching your kids at home. You know what a great way to teach them is?
With Kiyosaki
Buying
books.
cash flow and playing it with your children.
Oh my god.
We actually
no.
have an edition called Cash Flow for Kids to train them in the basics before you teach them the real game. But you also need to just tell them these lessons every night before you go to bed. The rich buy assets, the poor and middle class buy liabilities. It's some fucked up shit, brainwashing your children. He goes on about how kids have different learning styles, blah blah blah, and schools only account for reading and math learning styles. School bad. Private Walden Academy good. Walden Academy, I like them. Also, ADHD medication is bad. Don't take medication.
That's what the mask is.
That's what the man.
I keep pissing on my mattress.
So that's the book. They just repeat that over and over, but we get some delicious Robert Lee.
I love Robert Moore.
First of all, Robert's mom was seriously sick. So she came of age during the Great Depression, and she got really sick because of it, and she had lifelong lung complications.
Shit.
So every few months she was going in for life-saving surgeries, which cost a lot of money. And then she ended up dying at 47.
Liabilities.
Kiyosaki was in Vietnam, so his mom died while he wasn't there. She also died a month after Poor Dad lost the governor race.
Oh. Uh-oh.
So
Because he had no money and couldn't pay for any hospital bills. And this was the 70s, and this is an Asian family.
So they just got fucked
Yeah.
all at once.
All the
American dream, baby.
God.
Poor Dad was emotionally abusive, we learned. So most of these books, you spend a tiny bit of time with Poor Dad, maybe a few paragraphs, and then we escape to Rich Dad, who we love. We like Rich Dad in this wonderful
He's
world.
selling opium.
But then this book, we actually stay with Poor Dad for the most of the beginning narration, and we're trapped in this tiny house in this hell, and you really feel it. So,
Oh, there they go.
goodbye, oil truck. They didn't want to listen to Kiyosaki lecture. They didn't like it.
Yeah.
Alright, so Rich Dad, or Poor Dad, was the head of education in Hawaii, right?
Yeah.
He was really good at school. The dude fucking got his bachelor's degree on full scholarships in 2 years. It's a 4-year degree. Then he got his master's, and then he got 2 PhDs, and he was going to get more, but he had to stop because he needed a job because he needed to pay for his wife's medical bills. He was good at school. Robert Kiyosaki flunked most of his classes.
Damn.
And he's a very stereotypical Asian dad. And so he's you don't get good grades, you're gonna starve and die. You are a lesser human being. I hate you and I'm disappointed in you. So Robert's really fucked up about this, right? Here's the other thing. Robert gets bullied a lot at school.
Mm-hmm.
And Robert says he gets bullied because he's overweight.
Uh-huh.
And his dad said, "You're gonna let those other kids bully you? You're a pathetic wimp. You're a piece of shit. I should beat you."
Uh-oh.
Well, let's make it worse. His mom noticed
there's
that
more.
Robert has anger issues, right? She noticed he plays outside the other kids and will occasionally physically attack them. And she keeps telling him, "You're a nice kid, but you have some anger and evil in you, and you need to learn how to quench that." So every time Robert stands up for himself, his mom lectures him about how he's being a bad kid.
No!
Every time he doesn't stand up for himself, his dad said he's a worthless loser who isn't worth being alive. So we got some fun childhood trauma going on.
That's so cool. I love that film.
Me too. Alright. And then the fucking icing on the cake. Delicious trauma.
Shit.
There's this kid named
You're
Andy.
eating shit.
This kid named Andy. Andy
So-
Horton.
Robert Kiyosaki, he grows up in kind of a small Hawaii town, right?
Yeah.
There's this one kid who's a, honest to God super genius. But he's really, really tiny, and he's already young for his age in the class he's in, and he's really socially stupid. He's like 4th grade me level of socially
Oh,
stupid.
jeez.
Uh-oh.
So, his parents are like, "We don't want to make him skip a bunch of grades. That would be really emotionally bad for him, and we can tell." And so, Robert's dad, poor dad, personally agrees to tutor this kid. He has him come over to his house, and the head of education gives him special lessons for 2 hours to give him the challenge he needs. So Robert's dad is working more and more because he's the head of the education for an entire state, right? And then when he is home, he's working with this kid named Andy. Then Robert's dad, poor dad, talks to Robert and says, "Hey, I'm really worried about Andy because he's a great kid and he reminds me a lot of me and I really like him. But he has trouble making friends. So your job is to make sure that kids are nice to him and are willing to play with him so he can develop into the person I always knew Andy could be."
Fuck you.
Oh, Jesus.
But Robert says he didn't mind because while his poor dad was with Andy, he was spending time studying with Rich Dad and getting a better education. Alright, the next thing of note in this book is that all of a sudden, out of nowhere pretty much, Sharon Letcher adds this note that says, "And kids these days just think of their parents as ATM machines." It's terrible. That is what Sharon Letcher, my co-writer, thinks.
Okay.
Sharon Letcher is not a name that's been around the series the entire time. She's been on every book, but she's never come up before. And her introduction is that she fucking hates kids.
Okay.
And
Me
Just
too,
like-
honestly,
there's
Biggs.
a section later on in the book, especially now that I know as much Kiyosaki as I do, I can tell it was written by her, where Robert is going to speak to this private school about Rich Dad, Poor Dad, basically give him a sales pitch on it, right? And he said it was so refreshing finally getting to talk to these rich children, because they didn't ask pesky questions like, "How do I start investing? Where do I get the $10,000 to start buying real estate?" They weren't desperate and they weren't just thinking about themselves. They sat down and really reflected on what they said. And they also were just so much better behaved and more elevated human than the poor people we talked to earlier. Now, they never out and out say it, but it's very clear that rich and money just makes you a morally better behaved person. And they talk about how well behaved and quiet and obedient and good these private school children are. Because that is what makes kids good, their silence and obedience. Alright. Now, Rich Dad's Wisdom for Teens. This book opens with a foreword completely by Sharon Letcher.
Are we still in shallow waters, by the way? How deep are we?
We're going increasingly fast, but we're still in pretty shallow waters.
Okay. Because there's a lot of books, I've noticed.
We're not going to go into every book.
Okay.
So, Sharon Letcher opens by flashing back to 1995, I think. She is a accountant. She's got a pretty high-paid job, and she's got her investments together. Her life is fucking together. She's great. She's like the ultra mom. She is the epitome of what every woman should want to be.
The mom ever.
She's great. She's the best, right? And one day, she came home and she had a great business meeting. She did all of the work for her company. She's great. She's really good. And her son came home. He was 13, and he failed one of his science tests. And so she was like, Jimmy, why did you fail your test? And he said, Mom, I don't believe in the public education system anymore. Mom, they don't teach me about money. When am I going to use this stuff to help me in the real world? If only there was a curriculum that taught me practical business skills.
And then Robert Kiyosaki breaks down the front door.
As it turns out, Sharon gets a call from her husband. Her husband is an intellectual property
Wait,
lawyer.
Sharon Letcher?
Yeah.
Oh, hell yeah.
Sharon gets a call from her husband. He's an intellectual property lawyer. We like those. Fuck yeah, IP law.
Yeah, anyways.
Yeah, okay. So, he was talking to this guy named Robert, who is fucking crazy. He's trying to patent a board game called Cash Flow to teach children, like, fundamentals of money. And I just wonder, maybe this is what you and our son have been looking for. And Sharon goes, wow, I think I would like to try this program out. And so she brings her daughter, not her son, fuck her son, he's out.
Fuck her son.
That never shows up again. But her daughter, who's just about to go to college, she takes her to go play the very first trial of Cash Flow.
Oh god.
Okay, so she plays with her table, right? And then she's like, and I won. I got out of the rat race into the fast track before anybody else. And it was so funny how bad everybody else was at this game. It was like, wow, do these people really not know the investing basics? How can they be this stupid? I even beat my own daughter. She was in the race for so long and I won. And I kept making money and she was poor. It's like, damn, weird flex woman, but okay.
Is this Sharon talking?
Yes.
Fuck them kids, bro.
And then Sharon talked to Kiyosaki and was like, you know what? This is a good game. Good job.
I gotta flex on my daughter.
How about you come out to dinner with me and my wife and we talk about things? And so they go out to a fancy dinner, and she said it was the most refreshing conversation I had in my life. It was another rich, educated person who finally understood the fears I had. Like poor people not learning how to get their shit together and become rich. And we talked about our fears and how we could do something to stop it. And I realized that I wanted to help with Cash Flow Incorporated. And so I asked, so Robert was telling me he actually had a theory on how to advertise his game. He had this brochure called Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Be a pamphlet to teach you like the basic quick lessons, to summarize what cash flow is supposed to teach you, to like make it more obvious. And Sharon was like, no, this isn't a brochure. This is a book. And I'm going to help you write it. Sharon has no writing experience.
Nice.
She like took some English classes in fucking college. She's an accountant, like a 45-year-old mom type. So she was just like, yeah, I know how to write a book, which is why it reads like a fucking, like, Tumblr fanfic. Alright, and then at this point in the story, it just is Rich Dad, Poor Dad again. Word for word. She just said, I helped him write the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
And then it's just Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Copy-paste it.
Like the entire book?
Yes. Now, how does Tyler know that there weren't any slight changes or, anything
You
like
went over both of them at the same time and analyzed
I listened to the whole Rich Dad, Poor Dad for Teens, and then I listened to Rich Dad, Poor Dad again, just to make sure it was exactly the same.
Then you played them both at the same time.
Alright, so next.
And then just did
You
that.
entered a zone of complete
By the way,
zen.
this is all 2001.
Damn.
Retire young, retire rich. And this is when Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki really hits its stride. Because it's just pure nightmare fuel. The book has no, all these books so far have a framework of a narrative story. Like, we're telling something from Robert's personal life, right? Some money adventure he's had, or something he's heard about a friend do, right? And then he ties in his pseudo-real money lessons into these. This book, there is no framework. There is no topic. This book is not about anything. The paragraphs have nothing to do with each other. It is a stream of consciousness telling stories already been told, saying vague money terms, throwing them around. This book is 8 hours long. I listened to it and I have nothing to say because there's nothing in it. It is just like a sea of Kiyosaki. When you listen to it, you don't feel like you're listening to words. You're just swimming in fucking MLM get rich quick like propaganda, and you can feel the desperation and guilt and pain surround your body, and it is an experience unlike anything else because you just sit there for 8 hours and let all of this soak in. Rich Dad books are pretty much like this from here on out.
Nice.
Uh-oh. Something happened in 2001.
Broke.
Alright, 2001, the next book comes out. Rich Dad's Prophecy.
He didn't even take a break.
Rich
He's
Dad's
just writing.
Prophecy.
He's still writing.
This is the 4th book from 2001.
Jesus Christ.
Rich Dad's Prophecy, this is when he
Rich
really
Dad's
gets
Prophecy.
in trouble. So Rich Dad comes up with a theory. In 2016, there's going to be a stock market crash, and it's going to ruin the economy, and all the boomers are not going to retire, they're going to die in poverty, and they're going to be fucked. Unless you act like Noah and have faith in your financial guides and build an ark for your future.
An arc of money. An arc of cash flow.
Yes! Which, you know what a great blueprint for building your cash flow is? The cash flow board game. And if you want to learn how I build my cash flow empire, you can purchase my book, The Cash Flow Quadrants.
No fucking way. This is just an ad for cash flow, the board game.
Alright. So, in this book, why does he think the stock market's going to crash in 2016? Well, his reasoning here is not complete bullshit. It makes a little bit of sense. So, who knows about the changes to retirement plans that happened in our grandparents' lifetime?
What?
We used to have something called direct pension plans, DP plans. So you would...
DP.
Shut the fuck up, man.
What is
Demerit. Alright.
Wake up, DP.
Damn.
Oh, Dragon Punch. I get it.
The pussy.
That bad. Okay. Kiyosaki, horrible capitalism. Oh yeah, why the stock market's gonna crash.
Yeah.
So direct pension, that means you work for a company for like 30 years. Let's say I work for Bang Energy Incorporated. And then after 30 years of service, they agree to pay me $18,000 a year, which I then live off of. That's my retirement. In exchange for working, I put in my retirement plan, they pay me every year. Yes.
Oh no, I don't really.
But they don't do that anymore. Basically because people are living longer. So you used to retire like 65 and then die in 4 years. So they'll pay you, $18,000 for a tiny bit and then you're dead.
Yeah.
But now people are fucking living till their hundreds. And Walmart's not gonna fucking pay you money to not be their slave. So now we have direct contribution plans. Like 401ks. Do any of you know how 401ks work?
You pay in
don't
money and then you get it later.
I don't even know what a 401k is.
Alright. This is going to be important to your futures probably.
Fuck.
Maybe not Roland because self-employed.
Yeah.
But for regular people who get a boring adult job,
Hell yeah.
this is going to be important. 401k is you put money into your retirement account.
Mhm.
Every year you are allowed to put in like a certain amount of money, like $200 or $20,000 or something. Ridiculous amount when you're starting out, absolutely nothing if you've climbed the corporate ladder well. Then the company will put in the same amount that you put into it and match what you put in. This retirement account does not sit there. Your retirement account gets invested into the stock market for you. That means if the stock market crashes, your retirement is just fucked.
Nice.
Lol.
That is America's plan. That is Canada's plan. That is Australia's plan. That is how retirement works in our country. So, Robert Kiyosaki noted that the first generation to switch from direct pension plans to direct contribution plans are the baby boomers.
Yep.
The fucking problem with the baby boomers is that there is a lot of them. That's why they're the baby boomers. Disproportionately high group. So all of a sudden, all these people started turning 30, 40, started being like, oh shit, I need to be an adult now and think about my future and my retirement. And they started putting into their retirement plans. Their retirement plans are tied to the stock market, right?
Yep.
So all of a sudden, when most of the boomers were turning 30 and 40, the stock market fucking exploded because more and more people were pouring money into it. Because the stock market's the kind of thing where the more people who buy into it, the more money you can get out of it. It's like
Yeah,
NFTs.
I
It's a
see where this
little
is
scammy.
going, except not NFTs.
So the thing with the 401ks is that there's a maximum, once you reach 75, you have to start pulling out of it, right?
Yep.
So a lot of the baby boomers, the first wave of people who had to start pulling out of the stock market was going to hit in 2016.
Wait. Stop.
2016.
Yep.
Go.
So Robert Kiyosaki's theory was they were going to start pulling out of the stock market in mass, right? Now, right now in America, which generation has the most money?
The baby boomers.
So who's putting the most into the stock market?
The baby boomers.
So when all of them start pulling out of the stock market at the same time, the stock market's going to crash.
Yeah.
This means the baby boomers who don't pull out first are going to find that their entire retirement in the stock market is going to crash because now the stocks aren't worth anything. And all of that money, most of the money in the American consumer economy is going to disappear, and we're going to see a crash like 1929. That is what this book is about. Yes.
That makes a lot of sense. Why didn't that happen?
Why didn't that happen?
Yeah.
Basically, the government stepped in and put a little money to make sure the stock market kept working. Baby boomers slowly went out. And also there's enough people putting money into the stock market to where it just kind of turned out okay.
Okay, that's good. That's a good thing.
Yeah.
That's also like completely understandable. Like if I had that knowledge, I'd be like, okay, so we're gonna die in 2016, right?
So this was especially poignant in 2001 because this is the end of the tech bubble. Does anyone know what the tech bubble was?
I do.
Nope.
Tech bubble was like internet was brand new and it was just starting to become a thing that everyone had, and so everyone was buying it. But eventually, everyone would have the technology to access the internet, and so the bubble would pop and no one would be buying it anymore.
So yeah, unlike like the 1929 stock crash, you all know Great Depression, 1930s, all that shit. So that was a specific event that happened for a reason, right? The tech bubble is more of like a vague event that happened from 1995 to like early 2000s, where people saw that Microsoft made a shit ton of money for like nothing. It was like, wow, these look like a bunch of stoner white guy tech bros, and then all of a sudden they're billionaires. So the secret is to invest in stoner white guy tech bros. Shockey University, which by the way was actually around in the 90s. One day I really want to get the legal permission to give the Shockey lecture, but...
The Shaka you lecture.
Yes.
Shocky, you shocky.
But we were around in the 90s. And they, with the university, they created a fake company to go into a tech expo and start looking at the free equipment. Because it was the 90s and it was hard to get computer equipment for free back then.
Yeah.
And they actually started going to angel investors to get money for their fake company because it was a tech company and people were willing to believe it. That's how fucking gullible people were. Anyone would just buy your company if it sounded like it had something to do with tech.
Nice.
But here's the problem, because that just sounds like stupid people investing their money and getting ripped off, right?
Yep.
Well, mutual fund companies started buying tech stock. A mutual fund is like a giant portfolio of different stocks. The way most people invest in their retirement, the way a 401k works, the way my retirement account I have works, is that I buy like a fractional share of hundreds of companies. That way, if a company tanks, I don't lose much because I only own a fractional share and it's really spread out. So a lot of people own fractional shares of tech stocks, right? The tech market closed. People who didn't even know they were investing in tech lost like a third of their portfolio all of a sudden. My parents lost basically everything in a tech bubble crash. So people were thinking about how I was just investing my retirement account. All of a sudden I lost money for some random reason nobody really understands. So then Robert Kiyosaki's like, and it's going to happen even bigger in 2016. And then people went, oh, fuck. But some people did not like this book.
Oh.
So remember when I said Rich Dad Poor Dad made a lot of money?
Yeah. When did that make money, by the way? Did it sell immediately or was it a sleeper hit?
It sold pretty much immediately, 1997.
Okay.
So they're like a big brand in personal finance right now. They're bigger than Trump's books, if we're being honest.
Okay.
And a big thing in the personal finance community is they get sponsored by a lot of mutual fund companies. Because mutual funds are... The reason I have a mutual fund, it is the only realistic way from what I've seen to get involved in investing with no money. I live rent-free, which is really nice.
Yep.
So the first year I was able to, I put $6,000 into a Roth IRA. And then I put $3,000 into it last year. And I just bought fractional shares that way. The difference, by the way, this is another cool tidbit I learned from one of the millionaires I talked to. An IRA is basically like a 401k, but for people who don't have a company that offers it. I don't have a company that offers it, so I use this Roth.
So I would want to use it. If I wanted. Yeah.
Yeah, you can use it. Problem is, you can only invest money in an IRA that you earn. So self-employment income would count, but something you got from like a lottery winning or a will, you couldn't use.
Okay.
There are two kinds of IRAs, a traditional IRA and a Roth IRA. A traditional IRA, you don't pay taxes putting money into it, but you pay money taking taxes out. A Roth, you pay taxes putting money in, but you don't pay any taking out. Do you guys understand how tax brackets work?
I do.
Basically, the more money you make, the more % you pay in taxes.
Yeah. It's a bit more complicated, but basically more money equals you pay more taxes.
Yeah. Right now, I have a Roth IRA. So every time I put money into this retirement account, I pay taxes on that money. But I'm in a very low income bracket right now because I'm fucking 20. And so now when I pull this money out when I'm 65, I will not pay any money in all of this. The way these work, theoretically, if I put $5,000 into the S&P 500, which is what my stock is based off of, if I put $5,000 every year of my 20s, I should have $1 million by the time I'm 65. $1 million sounds like a lot, but it's fucking not. You can't retire on $1 million at 65 right now.
Yeah.
Most financial planners recommend you have $1,700,000 if you want to retire. Think about that. Are any of you going to be millionaires in your life?
No.
Then how the fuck are you going to retire? It fucking sucks.
I don't have to retire. I can just draw forever.
But then you'll get sick and fucking die.
Oh, yeah. Then I won't have to worry about that now, will I?
Hey.
Alright. So, these IRA companies are basically the easiest, lowest risk, simplest way for people like us to get into investing without getting into like huge real estate debt, right? So they work with a lot of financial planning brands that are advertised to people like me who are fucking stupid and want to make money. Robert Kiyosaki wrote a whole book about how mutual funds are going to cause the economy to crash. So they drop all support of Robert Kiyosaki. They start slamming him in the press. Everyone in the fucking personal finance scene turns on Kiyosaki and calls him a fucking charlatan.
Oh.
Did that ever happen, though?
What do you mean?
Did the mutual funds ever cause a financial crash?
No.
So he was just fucking wrong?
Yes.
Okay. Did he have like a reason to believe this, or was it...
What I told you.
Okay, yeah.
So, anyways, he is no longer popular. Basically, overnight, he's a laughingstock and a charlatan and bad.
Nice.
So, 2002 rolls around. How does the Cashflow Incorporated handle this? They released a book called Rich Dad Success Stories, which is all like audience submissions of how they read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and their life changed because of it. I went through these stories, and for the first like half of the book, I did a shit ton of Google research and verified that all of them are true. The details get a little fuzzy because these aren't like super well-known people. They are literally just random people who wrote in.
Mm-hmm.
But I was able to verify that most of them lived where they said they were and were involved in the businesses or real estate they claimed to be in. So it looks legit. And they all pretty much have the same story. Once upon a time, I was fucking poor. I was in debt, and I was a bad person like you. But then I knew I wanted more in life, so I joined an MLM. And they told me to buy Robert Kiyosaki's book. And then, because the MLM tells everyone to buy this book and has like a study guide for Robert Kiyosaki's books, because MLMs support him, I realized that I need to start investing in real estate. So what I did was I got a loan. And then I bought real estate, and then I rented it out, and then my renters paid for my loan, and then I invested in a small business, which I made a big business, and now I'm an investor. Thank you, Rich Dad.
The end.
Yep. So the book's like, see, we're not a scam, we're fucking real. Yeah. The beginning is
What are
all
you
about.
pointing at?
I don't know. Robert Kiyosaki writes the foreword and it's all about how much he hates the doubters. People keep saying your books don't have any actionable advice, and he's like, this is what public school's done to people. People just want directions. They want to be told what to do. They don't want to have access to creative side of their minds. My books teach you to have the mindset to be rich, and I'm so tired of these fucking doubters who won't listen to me. Next book, he takes that sentiment way farther. It is called Where Did All My Money Go?
That's a good question, Robert. Where did it go?
So it opens with him bursting into a journalist's office. He had done an interview with him a week ago, and Robert thought that the journalist had good intentions. But then the journalist wrote an article that was making fun of him and saying his financial advice was bad. And he said Robert talks about how you need to get 35% ROIs on your investment. Do you guys know what ROI is?
No.
Ruth Bader.
Return on investment. So basically, let's say Roland wants to make a comic,
Yeah.
but he needs some money.
Yeah.
And Roland's like, dude, Tyler, it's gonna be good. Just give me like $3,000 and you'll make it all back. And I'll be like, alright, what's the ROI? How fast will I get my money back? Robert Kiyosaki's like 35% in the first year. That's not realistic. That's not how this shit works.
Yeah.
It's not.
Also, don't put money in my comics. They won't fucking sell. Unless I'm going to a publisher, in which case buy my comic. You want it.
Yes. Alright, Kiyosaki bad. What are we talking about? Oh yeah, so, and the reporter was like, Rich Dad said, or Robert Kiyosaki's like 35% ROI. This guy is a charlatan. So Rich Dad comes in with the paperwork proving that he has 35 ROI in one of his investments. And the journalist is like, dude, that you're missing the point. This is not advice that will work for regular people. This is like a fringe case that you were able to get when you were already rich. And the robber goes, you don't believe me! You're a doubter! They are all doubters! And that's why I wrote this book. To show you doubters what's true. So, and I've heard a lot of doubt from this group throughout this lecture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think this book is for you.
Yeah! Give it to me! Yeah!
Somehow prove to me that what I'm doing right now is like is more.
Okay, that's the book. So,
Wait, what? Just shut the fuck up. That's it.
then it just becomes the soup of Kiyosaki for about 8 hours, and it's just weird nonsense.
The soup of Kiyosaki.
Kiyosaki soup.
And it makes your soul feel a little rotten. It feels like staring at a fluorescent light listening to corporate office music while feeling the fear of not having money gnaw at your soul for 8 hours.
So the back rooms, but
yeah, it's
but-
like,
The back rooms financially.
it's
financial
delicious.
edition.
Alright,
Financial expansion pack.
the next
$100.
way Robert handles this is he realizes that the Rich Dad name is like the Rich Dad brand's kind of fucked. So he makes a new brand. Ready? This is no longer the Rich Dad series, which is what we've been reading so far. He starts the Rich Dad Advisor series. So these
I don't. That's a different brand.
yes.
No.
So Robert Kiyosaki is smart because he surrounds himself with smart financial advisors, right? So he's going to give you advice from real teachers who really go out and do these things. So he has a book from a lawyer and an accountant and a banker and all the different financial fields you need to get your business off the ground. There's another series called Rich Woman, written by Robert's wife, Kim Kiyosaki. And this book reeks of like toxic early 2000s corporate feminism. It's all about how like men have been controlling women financially for centuries, right?
Yep.
Women, you have an obligation to break free and not rely on men. You need to increase your financial education by buying cash flow and investing in real estate. Or you are literally a failure to your gender and you are holding yourself, all of us back.
How do I buy cash
Why are they
flow?
like both insane? Like, they're like both fucking insane.
And Sharon Letcher's coming out with her own series, Rich Family. She we become rich from a family-centric.
How to
We
not
started with Rich Dad, and we're getting the whole family together for this
Rich
one.
how to corrupt your children too.
And we're the part of Robert Kiyosaki where, like, if you look up Robert Kiyosaki, some of these books will not show up on Google or any of the lists because they were cranking out books so fucking fast, nobody was keeping track of them.
Oh.
So the way you find out the other books is listening to them advertise other books. And then that just keeps building this web.
Oh, so that's why I kept getting deeper.
We'll get there. We're still in pretty shallow water. We're getting a little deep. But anyways, Rich Family, as far as I can tell, was never actually made. I think they advertised it coming out, but Sharon Letcher had some issues we'll get to before she got to writing it.
Cut. Oh.
Emoji worthy.
But that's okay, because luckily the Rich Dad Advisor books aren't actually written by Rich Dad Advisors. They're all written by Sharon Letcher.
Wait, he's not writing the books anymore?
The Rich Dad Advisor books, written by real advisors who know what they're doing, are being written by Sharon Letcher.
Instead of actual advisors?
So what they do
What?
is they bring in an advisor to write like a single paragraph. So at a certain point in the book, Sharon Letcher will write, and it's really important to protect your assets with an LLC. What is an LLC? Well, let's bring in a real expert, and he gives like the definition of an LLC for like 2 paragraphs, and then Sharon Letcher writes the rest of the book.
Oh.
And now that Robert Kiyosaki and Sharon Letcher are writing separately, it becomes very obvious what their 2 styles are. So Robert Kiyosaki is the fucking nightmare fuel soup. Of just
The MLM stew.
Yes! They like no structure or coherent meaning, paragraphs bleeding all over the place, fucking saying nothing. Sharon Letcher writes like a 14-year-old who hates children. I think the best example, the real estate book, every example is about how bad children are. So there's this one college student, right? And he's actually a good college student. He doesn't believe in like hippie liberal values. And he hates those kids next to him that are always partying and distracting him from his studies. And so what he does is he saves up some money and buys the room next to him and evicts all of them. And then later, like 50 years down the line, he loses all of his money in the 2016 stock crash. And he realizes that he still has this one room he bought all those years ago. Or there's this one where like they're talking about the importance of getting a company to own your real estate, so if you get sued, the company loses the money instead of you. And there are like things can happen that you never prepared for. For example, in California, this one woman owned a property, right? And she rented it to a single mom. But the single mom was working too much. And she had a teenage daughter, and the teenage daughter went out of control. Because kids are bad. And she invited all of her loud teenage friends, and one of them got drinking, and they hit something with their car in that parking lot, and then the owner of the building got sued. Kids fucking suck. And it starts getting like so wretched, and it's just painful and sad to watch. Like, there's palpable hatred in this woman's heart. And it just oozes out of every page. 2 things worth noting in all of the Rich Dad Advisor books, yes, I read all of them, is that LLCs or companies, anyone can form them. It only costs a few $100s a year to like have it. And if you are owning any sort of asset that's making money, it's worth protecting it with an LLC, because basically it makes you invincible to being sued.
Nice.
Which is how companies can do fucked up shit and not pay any penalties for it.
Nice.
Yeah. The other thing, remember Rich Dad's plan, 4 greenhouses, 1 red hotel?
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
We finally learned what the fuck that means. So there's this thing called a 1080 transfer form in real estate, which lets you sell properties you already own in order to buy a bigger property, and you don't pay any tax on the gains. So what you do is you find 4 greenhouses or small properties, and then you use a 1080 form to get a red hotel or a big property. Robert never explained this, and I think it's because he doesn't know. I think he had a real estate guy take care of his money for him, and Robert's like, I don't know what's going on. Explain it to me simply. I want simple answers.
4 green houses, red hotel.
You know how in Monopoly you get 4 green houses and you turn into a red hotel? It's like that. And Robert was like, genius! This is the plan!
Oh, I thought you meant just own 4 green houses and 1 red hotel.
No, you turn 4 green houses into a hotel through a 1080 transfer form.
Okay.
Yeah, duh.
Yeah, duh.
Millions of dollars.
Okay. So that is the other way. He tried to branch out to other brands. This did not save the company.
Oh.
One more trick up his sleeve. In 2006, he co-writes a book with Donald Trump.
Yeah!
Was it The Art of the Deal?
No.
Oh.
The art of Kyo Trump.
Okay, and this book opens, it's fucking horrible. Chapter 1, Millionaire Meets Billionaire. So, Robert...
Sounds like a fucking old
By the way,
fan fiction.
Right.
the story, the Sharon Letcher style is in this book. This is not written in the Robert style. It opens in the very much the 14-year-old Tumblr writing style. So Robert's going to a convention to give a speech about financial literacy, right? And he's excited, he's in the back, and all of a sudden everyone's silent. And they start whispering to each other in excitement. And all the women are getting really excited. He's like, what's going on? They're like, Donald is coming.
All the women start. They just start spraying everywhere.
Alright, so the whole room splits into 2 lines, and then a whole security team walks through. And you can just feel the excitement come in, and Robert's suddenly realizing that he's about to be in the same room as the Donald.
Shut the fuck up!
He's starting to get nervous. He's not sure if he's ready for this. And then Donald Trump walks in, and women are almost fainting.
I'm gonna kill
It's
myself.
so glorious.
It sounds like a fucking
And
dystopia.
Then Donald Trump walks right up to Robert Kiyosaki
And kisses him on the lips.
No,
Sucking
but he
lips.
gives him a handshake, and he feels his firm grasp on his hand. And Robert's really nervous. He doesn't feel worthy. But Donald Trump, he speaks really directly, like a humble man. He goes,
Like a humble man, Donald Trump.
"Yay, you wrote a best-selling book. I wrote a best-selling book. We should write one together. It would make a lot of money." And Robert goes,
Is this an origin story for the book you're reading?
Donald Gunn.
So Donald's cool. Robert Kiyosaki stumbles out the words. That would be great. So then he goes home and he's having a panic attack.
Yeah.
But Donald Trump is a billionaire. He's working with international global companies, making a difference in the world. And what is he doing? He's just a billionaire who is investing in real estate. What could he possibly have to do with Trump?
Money.
And so he was talking to his wife about it, and then she said, "Stop being a fucking pussy, Robert, and just fucking get the balls and call Trump."
I know he's a sexy hunk of man, but come on.
Oh, Robert's wife finally gets to be a character for a while, and her one character trait is wanting to fuck Donald Trump.
Yup, I fucking knew it! I fucking knew it!
Sharon Letcher is writing still, right?
I mean, it's not confirmed. She's not credited on the book.
But it's her.
But it's so palpably her style. I feel like she learned how to read from reading old lady porn romance books.
Yeah.
Ew!
Yeah.
Or no, learned how to write from reading those. I get that vibe. So anyways, Robert calls Trump, and then Trump's like, "Yeah, meet me in New York." And so Robert goes to New York, and he sees Trump Tower. And the building is so beautiful that it inspires him to work harder and make even more money.
Cut. Go.
You gotta treat a car.
Okay, so Robert Kiyosaki goes to Trump Tower and is like, wow, this inspires me to make more money. You know, for a little bit I was thinking about, I was happy where I am in life. And now I realize I have so much farther to go. I can never stop trying to make more money. This building just motivates me. It's so beautiful and amazing. And oh my goodness, I'm about to meet the real Donald Trump. And so
Real.
he goes into the office, right? But Donald Trump is late. Instead, he meets his assistants. And she's this very sexy young lady. And she talks about how great Donald Trump is for 25 minutes. And just so you know, my experience. So, I didn't pay for any of these books. These books are way too expensive. Some of them sell for like $40.
Yeah.
That's too much for a book, bro.
One of these fucking books? Yeah.
Yeah, for one of these books, yeah.
So I listened to this torrented audiobook that, like, this was not an official audio recording. Some fucking guy in a basement with a thick Indian accent was just reading this into a mic. And that's what I'm fucking listening to. I'm listening to Sharon Letcher write about how much Robert Kiyosaki and his wife want to fuck Trump, and how they're coming, listening to his assistant describe how great this man is, and they're just waiting with equal part dread and excitement for the Donald to show up.
The Don.
So, like, 2.5 hours into this book, Donald Trump finally arrives. He walks into the room, he's magnificent.
And it starts playing music like it's a fucking Marvel movie. So Captain America just walked in.
Donald Trump's like, I'm glad to meet you. And I was wondering, what should we write this book about? And so Robert Kiyosaki was talking, well, we're both interested in real estate, right? And we're also interested in the financial future of this country. And how in 2016, the stock market's going to collapse. And how people are going to lose everything. So they need to start investing in their financial education. And Trump's like, that's a great idea for a book. And then that's the book.
Wait, what? Wait, is this book just them thinking about writing a book?
No, because the rest of the book is in the book they write. However, the way the book works is there'll be a chapter heading, like,
I don't even know what
advice for people 50 and up for retirements.
Okay.
Robert's response, Trump's response. And it's clear they don't reference each other. Robert's reading what Trump's writing, and Trump is not reading what Robert's writing. So Robert will talk about how, like, public school's fucked, don't go to college, it'll just teach you to be poor, right?
Yeah.
And then Trump goes, I went to the greatest college, and that's why I'm successful. And then Robert goes, okay, Trump went to a college, but he succeeded because he studied beyond what the course taught, and did extra work afterwards, and really studied these extra materials. And then Donald Trump goes, I really like Indian people. The Indians developed mathematics and
Indians! Plural!
And in the modern age, they still have the same spark of innovation. And I really think if I was president, I would start investing more money in Indian infrastructure.
Then he didn't do that.
God damn!
Wait, this is 2006, by the way.
Wait, so when he was talking about Indians, was he referring to people from India?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I was wondering that too. No,
Because I would have put him past him.
No, the other Indians didn't develop civilization. Okay, so another thing you'll notice about this book is that Robert will write like 90 pages and Trump will write like 12.
Yep, that sounds about right.
And at this point, it's clearly Robert writing. It no longer has the Sharon Letcher style. It is just Robert soup, and then Trump jacks himself off for a bit, and then back to Robert soup. That's my favorite story in this entire book. So, one of Trump's assistants gets off in Dubai, right? And, he gets off in India, because India is the new big place to do business. India is fucking based. And there's an Indian cab driver, and he suddenly realized that this is an American businessman. He recognizes Trump's logo, and he's like, have you spoken to the Donald Trump? And the other guys are like, yes, I have. And the Indian felt so inspired just being in contact with someone who had spoken to Trump that like enlightened his life and got him to start thinking about money in a whole new way.
No, fuck that one girl. Trump wrote this book. He's just hyping himself the whole fucking time.
Well, again, it is a Kiyosaki, like, soup to make you feel anxious about money, make you, like, hate yourself for being poor, and then Trump jacks himself off, advertises his presidency for 2008, and the book ends.
8 years too early.
The book ends.
Alright, and now you are caught up all the way to 2006. 2007 and 2008 happened.
Uh-oh.
Alright, the first thing, remember when
Barack
Sharon
Obama.
Letcher never got around to writing the, like, rich family?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's because in 2007 she quits and sues the company for everything it has.
Sick.
Damn.
So cool.
Keep girl
fun bit.
boss.
In the real estate book she wrote, one of the really cool techniques she mentions is this thing where if you were a company what you can do is create an LLC. You guys remember what an LLC is?
Yep.
It's basically a tax shelter
Largely
that makes it so you can't get sued, and the thing that is in the LLC is protected, and you can only lose that and nothing else. So you form an LLC, so it's technically not you, all right? And then buy a piece of real estate you can't afford. Then, let's say you own a company. Use the company's money to buy the building, but have them rent it from your LLC. So technically, you're buying with your company's money, and then just say it's a company expense and have them do something in it, right? And then, when you're ready to have the real estate property for yourself, it's paid off and you just want to rent it out, get rid of the building, steal it from your company, have them stop paying for it, and then you get it for free using your company's money. So Robert Kiyosaki did that. And then Sharon Letcher got really fucking pissed because he stole their company's money for his own real estate portfolio using the advice she wrote. So she sues him, and she also says, I wrote all of the books myself. He didn't do work. His wife knows all the money stuff. Robert Kiyosaki doesn't know shit. He's a dumb guy who just talks out of his ass. I hate him. I know everything that's valuable in Rich Dad. I'm going to go off and start my own company. With the money she gets from Cashflow Incorporated, she's about to start her company, but then something amazing happens.
The 2008 financial crash.
Alright, 2007 hits, and the greatest thing of all happens. The greatest president of all time, George W. Bush.
I don't know. Oh, Catboy Bush. Woo!
He reaches out to Sharon Letcher and says, the government needs you. I've read your books, and I'm very inspired by them, and I realize the need for your financial education in our schools. So he brings Sharon Letcher on to reform the Department of Education
Oh wait, is that what?
for the entire country of America.
For all the kids.
Yes. So she gets a cushy government job and is working with the Department of
They want
Education.
the woman who hates children.
Yeah!
Oh no!
Very
That explains a lot.
explicitly hates
That
children.
explains a lot, actually. Okay.
This really happened. Okay, Robert's now in charge completely of writing everything. And they are nonsense.
Is this part of No Child Left Behind?
We'll get to this.
Okay.
Common
But I'm
core.
just realizing that there's something very important I skipped over.
Okay.
So, we're going to go on a complete side tangent for a second. Do you remember Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, the other book all the millionaires told me to read?
Yep.
So we're going to talk about that one for a second.
Wait, am I in camera when I sit up? Okay.
And I need to act a little more professional.
Your mug is a little bit, but it literally is almost unnoticeable if you're not looking for it. There it is.
Think and Grow
Milk and
Rich
Creamer.
by Napoleon Hill is a book written in the 1930s.
Yes.
So one day Rockefeller was sitting in his office. Do we all know who Rockefeller is?
No.
Yeah, the special tree.
He's possibly one of the richest people to ever exist when you count for inflation. He was a oil and railroad tycoon. He built the Rockefeller Center. He founded and funded a lot of the modern education system. He was a horrible monopoly owner. He was, living with his millions, now equivalent to billions of dollars, during the Great Depression, and advocated for treating employees worse.
Oh.
And one day, during the Great Depression, he was real upset about the news not treating him right. Jeff Bezos must know how he feels.
Yeah.
And so he hired this guy to write a book explaining how he's not a bad guy and how the way to become rich is just to improve your mindset. And this whole book is just an ad for how good Rockefeller is. But the more interesting book is Napoleon Hill also created a whole brand like Rich Dad. He has this book called Interview with the Devil. And this entire book is framed as if he's gotten a chance to go to hell and talk to Satan. And he finds out from Satan, first of all, that Satan is scared of Rockefeller because Rockefeller is the ultimate force of God and goodness on earth.
I don't know about that one, G.
But then the rest of this book gives kind of decent self-help advice like Jordan Peterson gives about basically, stop resenting other people in your life and start figuring out that you're probably the cause of some of your problems and work on your shit.
Oh, yeah.
Be polite to other people in life, project into the world what you want out of it. Basic stuff like that, right? But then he keeps tying it in some money. So it's almost like he's talking about the real things to enlightenments and then tainting it with, and then it's all about why Rockefeller has these and you're inferior. It's like so close. And he takes all these religious themes and deep human truths and then corrupts them into this weird pseudo-religion where Rockefeller is Jesus. And I feel like this really predicts what happens to Rich Dad Poor Dad, because there was one book that came out in the Rich Dad Poor Dad original 13-book series, which, by the way, to listen to all of them, it takes 72 hours, and I did listen to all of them in 72 hours.
And count.
Yes. There's one I didn't mention, and it is an ad for an MLM, the entire book. And most of it takes places in Robert Kiyosaki's conferences, because during this time, not only is he writing books, but he's giving like giant talks you can pay money to attend to, where he promotes MLMs. And there's this one bit. So he's talking about a lot of you out there. I see some people who are in their 50s and 60s, and I know what you're thinking. You're thinking it's too late for me to go out and risk all of my money and invest. What if I lose it? Well, I'm telling you, that is the thought of a coward. And he points to the oldest man he can see in the audience. And he points and looks, are you afraid of dying poor? And the man stands up and says, yes, I am. And he's like, well, why haven't you asked these people for help making money? And he talks about how, he doesn't want to run around and ask for money. That's kind of weird. And a rich dad says, I want you to stand up and look around this entire room. Look at all these people. Now raise your hand if you want to help this man and be his business partner and work together to make money. And everyone raises their hand. And then this old man felt the love of the room and money. And honestly, I don't advocate for any particular religion or another, but I do believe in a godlike being. Because that is the secret to being rich, is having faith. And I feel like God touched him that day. And the love was palpable. He also starts assigning things like MLMs had this idea with my books, and now I think you should do it, where all of my books are too complex to understand in one reading. You need to get your friends together, tell them about Robert Kiyosaki, and sell them on my books. So we can have like a weekly get-together where you study my works and analyze what each sentence means in relation to your life. Basically, he's telling you to create Bible study, but for Robert Kiyosaki books. And he's starting to come up with like Bible study devotionals and like prayer journals that are Kiyosaki themed. Shit's fucked. Okay, back to 2007. Sharon Letcher's left to go work with George W. Bush to reform the United States education system.
That's a thing that happened. We can't undo that.
I also love that the fucking how tied this series is to the presidents of our country.
It's fucked up. That's how you know it's shit.
Capitalism.
And then in 2008, Roland was right, the real estate bubble happens.
I know about the 2008 financial crash.
Do you guys understand what happened in 2008?
Sonic Unleashed came out in 2008.
Sonic Lecture.
That's why I didn't sell very well.
You know what? Do you want to explain the crisis or should I?
I think you should.
Okay. So we all talked about mortgages, right?
Yeah, mortgage.
So banks really like mortgages. Because essentially you're giving a loan to someone, right? Mm-hmm. And the risk with giving out a loan is always that you won't get your money back. The great thing about a mortgage is if you don't get the money back, you can take the house. And they're getting a loan to pay off the house, right? So if they don't pay it back, you just get the house, which is worth the same amount. So you're kind of covered either way. So banks realized that people lost faith in investment markets after the tech bubble. So what they started doing was selling mortgages to other companies and major things and saying, look, mortgages are so much safer, this won't crash. Then they realized, we're making a shit ton of money selling mortgages. So they started giving mortgages to people who they knew couldn't pay it back. Because they knew mortgages were a safe investment that the investment market likes. Then they also realized these people are desperate, so we can give them worse deals. Then you and I, they started making it possible for us to invest in each other's mortgages by creating giant pairings of thousands of mortgages together, and then you can buy fractional shares. But a lot of these mortgages are to people they know for a fact can't pay it back. And as a result, a lot of them got kicked out of their houses. Okay, so a lot of people are homeless now, which means there are more people selling homes than there are people buying homes because they can't buy it, right? That means the price of real estate goes down because of basic supply and demand, right? So the price of real estate goes down. You know how real estate's supposed to always go up?
Yep.
Well, it didn't. Now, people got a loan to buy a house, and the value of the house went down. So they actually owe more money on the house than the house is worth. And so now when people aren't paying their loans, the bank takes the house, but the house isn't actually worth everything the loan's at, so they can't pay their creditors back. And this had become a giant part of the economy. So what happens? Because this money literally disappeared, right? What happens when a giant chunk of money just suddenly magically disappears from an economy? You get a giant depression.
Yeah.
So in 2008, it almost happened that we had a giant depression and the poor and middle class were going to be about at 1930 levels. It was fucked. So what did we do? Does anyone know? Because that didn't happen. Fucking, do you want to say?
Government was like money.
Our fucking boy Obama, which by the way, Obama was elected, right? He came in January 2008. This is immediately what he got fucking slapped with. Like, month one, he had to solve the biggest financial crisis since the Great Depression.
Yeah.
Jeez.
And what Obama did was essentially, he gave all of the banks a shit ton of money. So you know how they owed a bunch of people money that didn't exist anymore? The government went, don't worry about it, we got you, and paid it off and stopped the depression.
So I was kind of right.
Yeah. They got all this money by printing it, because
It's
the
cool,
government
guys.
can
Money
just
isn't
fucking
real.
print money.
It's cool, guys. Money
It's
isn't
not
real.
guys.
So we just made more money.
Yes. Did that affect inflation? Yes. The dollar is worth less. And the banks learned that if
At
they
least
make
it's not Russia.
No, I heard somewhere that like one Russian, what's it, ruble?
Yeah, one.
Yeah, one Russian ruble is worth less than one Robux.
Yeah.
but we're
It's worth less
intentionally,
than V-Bucks now.
but that's like a coordinated economic attack,
Okay,
Yeah. We're doing that on purpose.
which is based
That is
Based.
so fucking
based
funny.
economic warfare.
I'm gonna
Yeah.
go buy bread with my fucking V-Bucks.
You have-
You know,
Yeah.
now is the time to invest in rubles.
Oh my god.
Buy low, sell
Honestly,
high,
yeah.
guys.
I'm out here buying Robux like a dumbass.
Support the Russian government, guys. Now's the time to invest. Alright, I was
Let's
talking
go,
about evil
Russia.
Kiyosaki. Where were we?
Bloody pooty.
Vladiput.
That's actually not a bad idea here.
Oh, financial crisis!
Yo, honestly.
Yeah. So, the banks learned that if they make really risky and bad decisions, they're too big to fail and the government will just
Too
bust
big
them
to
out.
fail, like the Titanic.
So, you know what happened after the government bailed out all these mortgage things?
They just kept making worse decisions.
It happened again. They just set up the mortgage payments. You can still invest in other people's mortgages. The business is as big as ever. They just did the same fucking thing.
And then they haven't failed because the government keeps subsidizing it.
Well, the government hasn't needed to since 2008.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. How's it not failed if it's doing the literally exact same thing? Literally no one knows.
Economy, man.
Line go
Alright.
up.
So 2008 happens, which is really good for Robert Kiyosaki. Because first of all, he's a real estate guy, and so he bought a bunch of houses low, you know. But also, there's mass poverty again, and people are really in the market for these get-rich-quick self-help books. But then, in 2010, Rich Dad gets fucked, or Robert Kiyosaki gets fucked over because, so, you know he's been doing these seminars, right? Well, he personally hasn't been doing all the seminars. He franchised out the Rich Dad Poor Dad brand name to this company that does seminars for a bunch of personal finance companies, using their logo to essentially sell their seminar. And there was a Canadian, they expanded to Canada in 2010, and the Canadian news sent people undercover to expose these things as scams. So, this is what the Rich Dad seminar process looks like. The first one, you see an ad on TV or YouTube and it's free to go to. You go there and you learn nothing. It's a sales pitch for the next class. The next class is an intensive 3-day seminar. When you go there, you're not allowed to take bathroom breaks for 10 hours. if you look at your phone or nod at the presenters, someone will stand behind you and yell at you for being lazy and not paying attention, and you pay $500.
And what do you learn?
Well, I'm glad you asked. You got to invest in real estate using other people's money.
No!
And the best thing to do is you call up your bank and demand they increase your credit card. And they give you scripts to help you what you say to the person on the phone to get your credit card raised. Now, with this money, there's 3 things to do. First, if you feel financially ready, go buy your own real estate deals. But if you're not, we have an opportunity ready for you. You can buy these trailers in this desert property. It's really low right now. There's nothing in this desert property. You are buying empty land that this company happens to own.
No.
Third, we're offering even more advanced classes to help you find your own deals, but they cost $10,000. You can pay to take them with your increased credit card limit.
Oh.
So, Robert Kiyosaki got called out on this, right? And he said when he thought he was off camera that, I know, this is a scam, I'm trying to get out of it.
No!
No.
That did not look well for Rich Dad.
Kiyosaki.
Or Kiyosaki.
Yeah.
It looked very. It didn't look good for Rich Dad either, who taught him that.
They didn't edit that out or anything?
No. Well, the Canadian government news company was making the video.
Oh.
Yeah. Meanwhile, in
Look at this
2010, Obama's fucking maced. So he discovers that Sharon Letcher is working on reforming education, and is like, I don't like this. And so he changes the name and removes most of her people and takes away all power in the entity, and then dissolves it completely in 2013. It's gone. They never got to implement any of their changes on our education system.
What? What kind of changes do you know? Do you know of any changes they had in mind?
No.
Oh.
But you were all going to have to take a course based on financial literacy, and it's pretty likely that Rich Dad, Poor Dad would have become required reading.
Oh god.
What?
Wow.
Or no,
would've
probably would have been
probably
Sharon
killed
Letcher's
myself.
new books, because she's really upset at Robert. Who knows?
Really upset.
That
Robert.
would. I was like, okay, financial literacy. That's good. That's
No,
we should learn.
this kind of literacy.
But like the bad kind. Okay.
Evil.
Evil.
In 2012, the company that Kiyosaki was working with, Learning Annex, who he called a scam, sues him.
Yeah.
This lawsuit completely bankrupts Cash Flow Inc.
No!
They are gone. 2012, no more Robert Kiyosaki Cash Flow Inc.
That's not very cash money.
Yeah, that's the end. Alright, so what happens? Some stuff comes out with Kiyosaki. Now that the business is gone, he's in the news again, people are really tearing him apart. We learned some interesting stuff, like Rich Dad probably never existed.
What?
What?
Okay, so let's hear some of the real life of Robert Kiyosaki growing up. So he grew up in Hawaii, and the reason his family was always poor was because his mother was dying, and she constantly needed expensive medical treatments. And his dad kept trying to get more and more money to pay for it, but eventually he couldn't keep up, and she died. Robert always resented that his dad was poor and didn't buy him luxuries, and that really created a rift between them at a young age.
Dio head ass.
Yeah. So, Robert Kiyosaki fucking flunked out of high school. He's doing terrible. His dad, however, was the head of the education in Hawaii, so he pulled some strings, got him a passing grade in English, and then got him a full ride to college. Robert Kiyosaki studied to work on oil tankers, and he became a, third mate on an oil tanker, right? Then he decided to join Vietnam. Now, I don't know why. Robert says it was because he wanted to be a man. I'm sure that's part of it. But Robert's dad was a Republican, right? And this is around the time he was starting to get really into politics and amping up for the governor race. And the political climate right now was, very polar like it is now. And the big dividing issue was the Vietnam War. So I feel like because Robert's dad was very much on the right side, this is kind of Robert trying to kiss up and finally get fatherly approval for the first time in his life. Because every time he speaks to Poor Dad after this, he's always wearing his Vietnam uniform. And his rich dad, or poor dad, mentioned multiple times how disappointed he was that he only got a bachelor's degree and is now working in the oil tanker. So he goes to Vietnam and learns to be a pilot, right? So he comes back from the war and he doesn't know what to do with his future. So he asks his poor dad, the one who exists, what should I do?
The one who exists.
And his dad's like, well, you went to 4 years of flight school for Vietnam training. You could be a pilot. And Robert was like, no, I don't want to be an employee. Then he gets a letter in the mail from the oil tanker company. They were like, look, we're an oil tanker, so we really like, fucking the war in Vietnam, a war for protecting American oil money, right? So, because you chose to serve your country, we're going to act as if you've been working with our company this whole time and get you seniority bonus. So they were going to sign him on for a 6-figure salary a year job at 25 years old with the oil company. And you know what Robert said? No, because I don't want to be an employee.
Fucking idiot!
And so, Robert's dad is like, damn, I don't know what to do with the kid. Alright, look. If you want to go into business, that's fine. Get a master's degree in business administration. And Robert was like, okay. So his dad pulled some strings, got him the money to get a business degree master's. And then Robert drops out because he realizes that they're all fake teachers.
Oh, they're fake? Like,
yeah.
They're just cardboard cutouts of teachers?
No, they're fake teachers because they don't know real business stuff. Like
But he does. That's why he's taking a master's degree in business right now.
Yeah. So he drops out of his master's program, and he gets a job as a salesman at the Xerox Corporation.
Let's go, employee.
Yeah. So he works as a salesman for 5 years because he's convinced that he's teaching himself sales skills. Then this really pretty girl is in an MLM and invites him to go to it.
And her name was Kim.
It wasn't.
Oh.
But he goes there, and then, he has a moral epiphany. Because he's fucking traumatized from Vietnam at this point. Hardcore. And this person makes him, talk about his emotions and fears around money and just presenting as ultra-masculine all the time. And he finally breaks down, and he associates this, growth as a person with this MLM space. So he's constant now going to get rich, quick seminars and stuff. Around this time, he decides he's going to quit his job as a salesman and make his own business. The nylon wallet company, right?
Yeah, the surfer wallets.
And it does pretty well, surprisingly. Real, we have evidence, this existed. And then he goes, wow, I'm doing well, so I'm going to upscale. So he starts building another factory in Taiwan and moving faster, right?
Uh-oh, no. What year is this?
Child labor.
Oh, it's definitely child labor. We're in the, 80s at this point.
Okay.
So he builds a new factory, right? Here's the problem, though. There's these fucking Taiwanese people who steal his products and copy it and ship it for cheaper. So right when he's upscaling and putting a lot of money into it, he has competition he can't possibly compete with. So what does he do? He tries to get a loan to make more money, and no one will offer him money because they're like, your business is fucked. So he goes to his poor dad, who has just lost everything. Remember, because he lost the governor race?
Yep.
And his wife died.
Yep.
And he goes, hey dad, I need you to give me $100,000.
No.
So his dad gets a second mortgage on his house.
No.
Gives Rob...
No. Stop.
Gives
No.
Robert
No.
the money to invest in his business.
No.
Robert's business partner takes all the money and runs.
No.
The business goes under. Robert joins the Taiwanese company that beat him. And then Robert goes, wow, this is fucked. And so he says, I don't want to do this anymore. So he asks his brother to help him make a business that succeeds. So his brother builds up this business for him and then gives it to Robert because his brother was a business major who actually finished school. And this business is selling wallets with rock band logos on it. So when you go to a concert and you get all these custom tees with the band stuff on it?
Yeah.
Robert Kiyosaki was making these products. So this business made a lot of money until a knockoff in Taiwan started making the same products. And then he lost everything. But this time he was millions of dollars in debts. So he started not knowing what to do with his life. He got really depressed and went to a shit ton of get-rich-quick seminars where he met this beautiful lady named Kim. So he went up to her and he asked, will you go out with me? And she said no.
No.
And so the next day he asked again. And she said no.
Oh, God.
He asked again. And she said no. So he kept
You didn't
following
tell-
her. And he did this for 6
He
months.
stalked her?
For 6 months!
No!
And then she said yes.
When?
And then he took her to live in a car with him. And they were both homeless together. Now, it turns out at this point, his wife was already really into real estate investing. And she already had a plan. And they worked together. Robert Kiyosaki realized he needed to build a new business. This time, it's about financial education. This homeless man creates a business where he gives talks and seminars like the ones he's been going to and gives people random pseudoscience about richness and charges them for it.
This is like some Raging Arataka type shit.
So he makes a shit ton of money off this, right? And then he gives all this money to his wife, who is a fucking genius, and she invests in real estate deals, makes money, and then they retire. Woo. And then he's like, wow, I feel really useless because my wife keeps pushing me to make more and more money. And she says she's only happy when I'm making more assets. And so I need to find a way to make more money. What if I could put my seminars in a box? That's where cash flow comes from. So they were developing the game, and they realized from the manufacturer in China, said, look, this game is too many pieces, it's too complex, and it's going to take $50 to make. You need to simplify it. But Robert had a vision. He said, no, we won't simplify it. We'll find a way to market a $200 game. And so he's brainstorming with his wife, how do you do this? And she says, well, you know, I really loved MLMs. They helped my career. What if we use an MLM business model? So at one of our paid seminars, we'll introduce the game cash flow to people, right? And then we'll tell them that if they want to get rich, they need to play it. But not only that, they need to teach it to 10 other people. And we should really encourage them to keep branching out and teaching.
Why did I see this before?
And that's how we'll get to sell this game. So what they do is they have these seminars, and then they start overseeing cash flow clubs, which are these real organizations that bring people in, and they say you can play it for free, and then they tell you to buy a copy and play it at home with your kids. And then Robert Kiyosaki saw that this was working really well, and he wanted to make a brochure, but then Sharon Letcher was like, no, I just read 50 Shades of Grey, and I can write a book, I can do it.
Is that real? Did she say?
No, this is 97, so not out yet.
Oh, okay.
But it's that style of book. And so then she writes Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and they try to bring it to a publisher, right? No publisher will publish it.
I wonder why.
And Robert Kiyosaki's like, but I made a best-selling book before. It's like a best-selling book in some obscure technical market. So it's not really best-selling. And it's just something he crapped together earlier and self-published. All the publishing companies read Rich Dad Poor Dad and say, you don't have any financial knowledge or don't know what you're talking about, we won't publish you. So they self-publish, and it goes nowhere. But then a couple of MLMs read it, and they notice this book is super pro-MLM. And they're already kind of in those circles because cash flow is using similar tactics and like getting similar people. So a bunch of MLMs start making their employees purchase Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which artificially inflates how popular its ranking is on different lists. Just how Scientology has like people mass order their books. So, Rich Dad, Poor Dad was inflated to shoot up really high on all these bestseller lists because of all these MLM people being told they need to buy a copy for everyone they know, right?
Yep.
Oprah sees it get on one of these huge lists,
Oprah.
and Oprah's like, you know what? I haven't done a financial thing in a while, and look, it's a person of color making it. It's an Asian guy. Perfect for my Oprah brand. So she brings him on. And then he gives a 15-minute sales pitch, and it becomes like a national-wide fever. Everyone's getting into Kiyosaki. And that's how evil begins. So that is the story of how Kiyosaki got to this fucking point. So where's Kiyosaki now in the year of our Lord 2022?
Fuck.
He's still writing books.
What?
Today. He's still writing books.
What was his last book?
It was called The Capitalist Manifesto.
No!
I believe it came out in late 2021, maybe 2022.
That's fucking hilarious that he wrote that in the middle of a secession.
So Robert's books now are full horror soup, right? And they've gotten longer. Some of them are like 15 hours.
Oh my god.
Like how many pages?
I listen to an audiobook mostly.
Oh, okay, fair.
At this point, I'm listening to them at 2x speed. Because it's fucking a lot.
You can keep track of that shit in 2x speed?
Yeah.
You're good.
Well, also, you really get a feel of Kiyosaki at this point, so you're almost listening for the vibe and not the words. Like, you want the soul-rotting vibe to fill your body and become you.
Soul-rotting vibe.
Tell me more about MLMs, Kiyosaki.
Yes, Daddy.
Tell me more about capitalism.
But they get worse! They get worse! Because Robert Kiyosaki is deeply inspired by Donald Trump.
Yeah, of
He
course.
gets super clickbaity. And it also gets conspiracy theory level. Like, his books now come with, like, an attached sheet of documents with literal newspaper clippings. He's like, if you will reference clipping 3A.
Oh, man.
And he has this weird fascination with this man named Buckminster Fuller. Buckminster Fuller was a philosopher who died in like the 70s. And here's the weird thing. Buckminster Fuller is a fucking socialist.
Stop. Continue.
Buckminster Fuller is a socialist. He's all about how the Vietnam War was fought to protect the agents of capitalism and it's bad. The rich people are actively fucking everybody else over, and the class divide is getting way too high, and we're on the verge of like giant collapse. We need to start learning to treat each other as decent human beings. We need to start taking care of the planet and stop fucking investing in oil tankers. So Robert Kiyosaki is a huge investor of oil now. He says he's an environmentalist and is inspired by Bucky Fuller and doesn't like what it does to the earth. But whenever he invests in oil, it makes his wife happy because they have a new asset in their portfolio. So, Robert Kiyosaki also keeps quoting this phrase by Scott F. Fitzgerald, who wrote the
Great Gatsby. Watch the Great Gatsby lecture.
And so he says,
You had a Great Gatsby lecture?
Soon.
the mark of a great man is holding two contradicting ideas in their head at the same time. And I feel like Robert Kiyosaki got the wrong idea out of that. Because he believes that oil is fucking up the earth, but he also believes capitalism is good and that by investing in it, he's like helping the world by perpetuating capitalism, and that's his example of believing opposite things. So he'll talk about how like Buckminster Fuller was all about how the elite are fucking us over. And I agree, the elite are fucking us over. But not the rich. The rich are good. The rich are bringing jobs and charity to the world. The problem is the elite. Do you know who the elite are?
Me. I'm elite.
Yeah, neither do I. The elite, basically, after listening to well over 45 hours of this, I've kind of pieced together, alright, that the elite are this group of hyper-educated people who went to universities like Yale and Harvard.
Oh, I just figured out who the elite are.
And because of this, they have no financial education at all, because they went to the bad school system, right? And so they got a good degree, and then they made a shit ton of money, and they got into the government, and then they started making decisions with all of their money they got from being rich without any financial education. And that's why the 2008 stock crash happened. And you know what? I predicted the 2008 stock crash. Remember when I said that your home is not an asset?
Yeah.
I was right. Remember when I said the stock market was going to crash in 2016, but it could be earlier? I was right.
Dang. Well, it wasn't a stock market crash, was it?
I was right.
Okay.
I predicted it. And did I not say, I clearly said that there would be minor waves before the great crash of 2016. But I also said it might not happen in 2016. But I called it, just like I called 9/11.
Wait, no, you did not predict 9/11. I mean, he might have.
I don't know.
Yeah, because Tyler was alive back then to predict 9/11.
And like, did I miss the 9/11 book? Alright. Alright, so the elite are these hyper-educated people who don't have any financial intelligence, and they're causing all of the problems in the world. Because people are poor, they're not learning to pay for their own healthcare bills, which is causing sickness and death. If everyone learned to be rich, we wouldn't have these problems. And everyone can be rich. There's enough money out there for everyone to be rich.
No, there's not.
Shut the fuck up, Roland. Stop thinking with your poor person brain. Okay,
What do you
there's
mean
enough
with poor
money out there.
person brain?
It is so easy to get rich. You literally just use OPM. Oh, by the way, side tangent. Remember when Kiyosaki's lecture hall got busted?
Yeah.
The scam one?
Yeah.
Trump did the same thing with the same company.
What?
He made something called Trump University.
Oh, right.
It was the same company that Kiyosaki was using. Fun fact.
Oh.
Okay.
But anyways, so the elites are fucking everything up. And then he says it, The elites are people like my poor dad.
What? No, that's not where I thought it was going at all.
We're going some other places. But okay, people like my poor dad, because Robert Kiyosaki is still so deeply traumatized by his dad. He's invented this entire conspiracy based off someone who's talking about the actual rich. He's changed the word elite in his mind to mean people like my dad, who I hate because he emotionally and physically abused me as a child. But there's something else that was always weird in these hours and hours and hours of books. He would tell this story, right? It's one of his newspaper clippings, actually. He keeps going to this article, reading this weird quote. By the way, something he fucking does with these articles, right? He'll read the quote, right, and say, now that sounds complex, doesn't it? Let me give you the Kiyosaki translation. And then he'll say something completely different.
Oh.
So there was this one guy, right? And he said, I was going to this elite university. I think it was like Yale or Harvard or something. And I was coming in on a full ride. And that didn't happen back then, because I'm a Jewish kid.
Uh-oh!
Poor neighborhood. In a poor neighborhood. And then I got a full ride. They called me one of the scholarship boys. And they realized that things were changing, because it was no longer just the white elites that were going to school, but we were getting opportunities too. And he was changing. And there's always I could never prove it, because Kiyosaki has this way of words where he just dances around literally everything.
Yeah.
It takes him 8 pages to say what I say in a sentence here. And so you really have to figure out by vibe sometimes. But you tell he takes his quote, right, and then doesn't explain it at all. But there's something looming.
Jewish kid.
And then he says it, and then he fucking says it one book. All of these kids are being admitted to these Ivy League universities, and they didn't grow up in families that gave them a financial education. And as a result, they have the degrees to get all these high-paying jobs, and they're running the country and getting rich, and they don't know what they're doing. And so the blacks and Jews...
I called it! This man's a fucking anti-Semite!
Robert Kiyosaki has some problems with racial identity.
A little!
So he's a Japanese American, right?
Yeah.
And he always emphasized that Rich Dad was white. He was white. He was my white dad. And
Not like my poor dad.
His poor dad is the one who absolutely hates.
You know, poor dads are just as
Nothing
intelligent
about
as rich dads.
But the dad he makes up for himself. By the way, the dad he makes up for himself is still so fucking abusive.
That's
Isn't that interesting? Rich Dad treats him like shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
He literally abused him as a child.
It's almost like his only framework was poor dad.
Yeah, right? But isn't feeling this idealized father who pays attention to him and hangs out instead of hanging out with fucking Andy and teaching him.
But it's
A
also
rich dad who
abusive.
loves him and sees his potential. He's white.
Yeah, interesting.
Something that's worth noting at this point is there's a possibility Rich Dad is real. So
Israel.
Robert Kiyosaki, Cash Flow Inc. got taken out, right? And then Robert Kiyosaki talked about an interview where, okay, Rich Dad might not be real, but it's like Harry Potter. Even though it's not real, the lessons and morals are still valuable. But then he fucking backtracked and was like, Rich Dad is real, and I'm gonna prove it.
Rich Dad
You're
is
gonna
real.
prove it.
The reason he never gives Mike and Portent's real last name or Rich Dad's name is because the family is real, but they wanted to be kept secret. For privacy.
Yeah, of course.
But finally, Mike, whose real name is Alan, was allowed on the podcast to talk to him.
What
Name it
podcast?
Alan.
The
Joe
Rich-
Rogan.
Yes, my dad is actually Rich Dad's son. It all connects. No, it isn't. Anyway, my dad's named Alan, for those of you who don't.
Oh,
So-
LMAO.
And then he says, this podcast, I'm really going to bring him on and talk to the real Mike. And so then they talk, and it
What podcast?
we'll get to it. We'll get to it.
It's
A podcast.
what? Tyler, you just like, bro, you did a full floor sweep.
Is it still recording?
Let's find out. Yeah, but it's fucked up. Uh-oh.
Cut.
Go.
So they reveal the name of the real rich dad. I don't remember it. Guys, you gotta understand, I've listened to a lot of Robert Kiyosaki.
I'm sorry.
Like a lot.
Yeah,
That's
a
not a good
lot.
enough excuse.
So
And
much.
so this one name was mentioned 3 times missed. But I did look him up. And there's a shit ton of articles about him. And you know what they all say?
He's
What?
terrible.
Isn't it interesting how Robert Kiyosaki said he had a rich dad and then the doubters didn't believe him, but it turns out he's real? And that's basically all they say about him. And
Didn't
they're
even
all-
say if he's rich.
they're all written in the same style, and it's like, oh, this isn't real. But during the podcast, Mike talks about Rich Dad, and he talks about him the way you'd imagine a kid who had this guy as a father would really talk. He was like, yeah, my dad was a cheap piece of shit who abused children and would never pay anyone anything, and it's probably better he's dead. He would verbally abuse us all the time, and he was terrible. Meanwhile, Robert's always trying to twist his words and say, yeah, but Rich Dad was good, right? I mean, Rich Dad was good. And the other guy was like, no. And that sounds really believable.
Yeah.
But everything else lines up so well, and he has so much motivation to, like, live in this lie he's created for himself. I kind of think Rich Dad is a Robert Kiyosaki invention to deal with his daddy issues. Alright.
Should have chose Jordan Peterson instead for that, I guess.
Oh yeah, I love Jordan Peterson. So, remember when I said clickbait has always been Robert Kiyosaki's thing? So not only is Robert Kiyosaki writing books, the media empire is bigger. He has a YouTube channel
Uh-oh.
that he posts on regularly. He posted like 3 days ago.
Okay.
And these are like 60-minute videos.
It's called Shaka University. You're Robert Kiyosaki.
And Robert Kiyosaki gives talks about... Yeah, and they're long. He has a lot to say about things.
It's like his books.
Yeah, like you need to buy cash flow.
He still has that?
Yeah,
He's still selling it?
well, he doesn't have the rights, so he says you have to like go to my online free cash flow version and let that inspire you to buy other Rich Dad products.
Oh.
It's weird. There's also this huge tone where it's all about like the poor and the rich are like separate kinds of humans. So listening to so much Robert Kiyosaki, my ads are like permanently fucked.
Yeah.
So the one time I was listening earlier on, right, and I got this ad, like a flash forward of what Kiyosaki is like now. And he said, there's 2 kinds of people on this planet. The rich and the poor. And they don't even think alike. They're not like the same things. And he describes rich people. To become rich, you kind of have to like emotionally mature and like grow as a person and kind of achieve enlightenment. And poor people don't have the emotional intelligence and like the self-work to become rich. They're just too fucked up as people. So to help them, you actually need to get them like therapy and self-work. That's what's stopping them from becoming rich. But that's just the YouTube channel. We're not even talking about the Rich Dad Advisor podcast. He
Wait,
brings in-
advisor?
He brings in real experts in the field, like MLM experts. And he talks to them about real money going on in the world. And he co-writes books with them and then uses the podcast to advertise their books. They upload weekly. The episodes are like an hour. It's still going on. He also had another podcast about real estate. There's also a bunch of fan Kiyosaki podcasts where weird people who are obsessed with Kiyosaki just like, I don't know, reiterate his teachings. My favorite one, it was like Kiyosaki was Sue Me. And there's only 45 minutes of content about it, but it's this weird guy who's like about my age with a thick Indian accent. Maybe the same one who did the Donald Trump book. I can't tell. But anyways, he like takes bits that Rich Dad said, like the most horribly abusive moments in this saga, right? And then reads what Rich Dad says, and then says, Rich Dad said this, so it is spoken. How can we apply that to our lives?
No!
How can we learn? And,
What? We just ruined an entire generation of people.
in the background, first it nursery rhymes, slowed down play, like A, B, C, D, Mary had a little lamb, little lamb, little lamb, but without the lyrics, creepily, slowly stretched out playing in the background. And then when he starts getting really intense, like Hindu chanting starts playing.
What the fuck am I listening to?
And I listened to 45 minutes of this and just basked in the like horrible vibes.
How many views does it have?
Like none. Okay, another thing you'll really note about Kiyosaki's YouTube channel and other web content is it feels like he's still on 2015 internet. He talks a lot about how like the hypersensitive kids on these college campuses,
Yeah.
like these snowflakes,
Yeah.
there's speakers there who are saying things they disagree with and that's ruining America.
To be fair, most of the conservative party are still saying this shit. So.
But it's like it's 2022, dude.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying this is the party line right
But
now.
like most conservative people I listen to are talking about like COVID shit and Biden. Kiyosaki is talking about how toxic feminism is ruining America.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
And it just feels like an old man who's kind of just out of the loop and screaming about things. He also does this fucking annoying thing I hate, and I hate it so much because I used to do it. Where he's like, I'm not partisan, I'm above the liberal and the conservative fighting.
No, you're not.
Because
No,
I
you're-
have facts and logic. Let me show you something, okay? The Chinese have a saying. And I know about this because as a third-generation Japanese immigrant, I am in touch with all these different cultures.
Yeah,
Yes, he says this.
of course he does.
So the Chinese say that there are three sides to every coin. One side, the other side,
And
and
the,
the
the,
middle.
the edge.
You, as a smart person, as a rich person, stand on the edge and look at both sides of the coin, look at both of their perspectives.
And they're both poor.
So, for like liberals and Republicans, right? I stand on the edge of the coin. So then I will agree with.
He's Andrew Yang! This whole time you've been talking about Andrew Yang!
And he agrees with random, like, hyper-conservative stuff. He's like, I'm not partisan at all. I just believe that the rich shouldn't have to pay taxes, that poor people are bad people, and women should learn to respect their husbands more. But I don't have any conservative-leaning beliefs.
No, he has neocon, chavcon, paleocon. He's Nick Fuentes. But no, he doesn't have any conservative beliefs. Don't worry.
He also has a super awkward relationship with Trump.
Say no more. Just
So I
leave it
used to
there.
think when I read this, he wrote 2 books with Trump, right?
2?
Yeah.
What?
He also wrote another book about MLMs, but like it's a repeat of what we've already talked about.
Okay.
And I kind of thought that like him kissing Trump's butthole was like, you know, Trump editing it and like Trump's message coming out of the book, right?
Yeah.
Then Trump and Kiyosaki, a ways back, before Trump was running for president or anything, for like real running for president, they did some videos together, and Kiyosaki is like talking about how amazing Trump is and is like in awe, stammering, like looking at him, kissing up to him the entire time. It is uncomfortable to watch. Kiyosaki is like this little baby demon kissing up to Satan. That is what it looks like. Okay? But then Robert wanted to make a 3rd book with Trump, and Trump went, no, I'm running for president now. And then Trump never talked to him again. Now, before this, Kiyosaki was all about how, like, Trump is one of my best friends. I love his children. And now he brings up Trump with this, like, bitterness and betrayal. And he talks about how we thought Trump was going to be great for this country. But then he didn't do some of the tax benefits because politicians are bad.
I'm getting Dr.
But you know what's
Starlight
good?
vibe.
My books.
Dr. what?
Dr. Starline vibes.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Alright. So, the next thing I want to talk about is the movie adaptation.
What?
The Robert Kiyosaki movie.
Alright, and cut. We're done. Alright, that's the end of the lecture,
So
everyone.
he
Thank you.
made one of his Robert Kiyosaki soup books about how the elites are designing schools to make us slaves, and the only way to escape is financial education.
And in case people forgot, when he says elites, he means Jews.
So he adapts this into a movie, right? And the movie's a bunch of terrible green screen stuff where he's running around and just lecturing you. Like, he talks about the coin thing, and it's a picture of him standing on a CGI coin with a white But there is one moment that, okay, he brings his wife onto the set.
No. No, don't do this.
And he immediately starts, "This is my wife Kim, who I love so much. She's a beautiful lady and she helped me with my anger issues and I love her so much. She's just a beautiful lady. Mwah, mwah, mwah." He like touching her, mwah, mwah, mwah. And she just looks like this.
What the fuck?
And it's straight silent, right? And he goes,
There's a gun off camera.
He's like,
and he goes, "I love her so much. She's a wonderful lady, and our relationship works because we both love business." And she goes, "I do love business."
Oh no! Wait. No, I have a theory right now. Kiyosaki sucked out the brains of Kim and drained it into himself. So now Kim is a husk of a human being, while Robert Kiyosaki has all of her intelligence in his brain.
So in 2017, she divorces Kiyosaki.
wow! Fucking bitch!
But in his books, he still talks about how he's married to her.
What?
You fucking
In his most
Wife
recent book,
guy,
he
wife
talks
guy.
about how Kim is his wife and how great their relationship
Epic
is.
divorce, man.
So people were like, "What's going on with this?" Right? So Robert, in response, releases a video on his YouTube. Goes, "Why did Kim divorce me? Because I was a big fat beta."
No, you can't go further than this. This man is dead. He has
We're going deeper.
We're going deeper than
ruining
we've
his
ever
own
gone
life.
before.
So it fucking opens.
You gotta be an alpha, Kiyosaki. Don't you see all those?
And we get
Kim dumped you because you're a sub-8 male.
Okay, so there was hints of this all throughout the relationship, hints throughout the book, and it makes a lot of sense in hindsight. But essentially, Kim is a hardcore business lady. She is a fucking narcissist sociopath, right?
So just like the guy from American Psycho, but
Yeah. Well, she went to marketing school and graduated at like 21, and she went right to a top-end advertising firm and then joined an MLM and like was religiously into it. And decided that like MLM was what she wanted to do with her life and she wanted to surround herself in that environment.
oh my god.
So she studied real estate and Robert kept asking her and then she was like, "You know what?" And Robert explains, "I see value in you. You are pursue. You have the fire in you. You are sales. You could help me make money." And Robert's like, "And whenever I got an investment or made a business and made money, she was happy." And she divorced me because I stopped being hungry for money. You know, I have $100 million, I was getting kind of content, and I stopped going out there and wanting more. And also, do you know what happened? Because I stopped having a purpose and driven in life,
You
I
became
got fatter. And my wife did not like me being fat, and so she started sleeping with other men.
Oh my god.
And I was okay with this because I deserved this for being a beta. And then she divorced me and left and she's living with other men. But technically I never signed the paper, so we're still married.
Wife guy, I won't hear you insult my wife.
Okay, and you know what? The reason I say she's my wife in the books is because I'm happily married. It's funny. My wife is living and fucking other guys, and I'm happily married. In fact, this is one of the best ages of my marriage in my life. It's really
Kiyosaki!
And you know what? You know why this is so good? It's inspired me to start working out. And you know what the comments are filled
Please
for?
fuck me.
Good job! It's good to see the king looking fit again.
Shut the fuck up!
The king of all cucks.
Wife guy, wife guy, wife guy.
Kiyosaki.
Yo, new guy just dropped.
How much time do we have on that?
We're at 14 minutes.
Okay. So, something I feel like you'll notice if you look at this man's whole life is that he was never loved.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Oh my
actually
God.
kind of true.
I love you, Kiyosaki.
His dad never loved him. His mom was too busy fucking dying. Alright, constantly in the hospital. Rich dad either didn't exist or was a horribly abusive man who took this desperate child who needed father attention and put him to work in a 7-Eleven and gave him no financial information. Then this kid, who was deeply in need for love, went to the fucking Marines. And then he married a fucking narcissist who slowly bled him dry, made fun of his weight and his lack of making more money for years as his soul slowly rotted. And you get to watch this horrible marriage happen in real time. Now, before we move on to the next level of the Kiyosaki iceberg, there are two really funny stories I want to tell that I didn't find a good place to insert earlier. The first, one of the many side books has Robert Kiyosaki in one of his conventions where he's preaching to people, right? And this one woman goes, you know what, I feel like you kind of have this sick obsession with money. Like your obsession with money is filling another hole in your life, and you just keep pushing people to want more and more money. And isn't that kind of like unhealthy? Isn't money the root of all evil?
Uh-oh.
Then the room goes silent.
He's dragging his
Kiyosaki's
soul.
eyes turn red. Demon face comes on, and he walks up to her. And he goes, ma'am, let me tell you something my rich dad told me.
Oh my god.
I want you to imagine your life
My
in
rich
4
wife.
quarters.
Oh,
Like
no.
a football game. 25, most people start working for real, setting up their adult career at 25. So 25 to 35 is your quarter 1, right? 35 to 45 is quarter 2. And then you have your midlife crisis. Then
the
45
show,
to
baby.
55 is quarter 3. 55 to 65 is quarter 4. And then you should be done. You should be retired. But what if you can't afford it? Well, then I guess you'll just have to keep working in overtime. But do you know what's really interesting? So as you get into the later years of your life, living doesn't get cheaper. It gets more expensive. Did you know that? Medical bills start piling up. And do you know how you keep people alive when they're really sick and need medical bills? Money. Those of us with money will survive. And those of us without a retirement plan, well, who knows what will happen to them after they're 65. And isn't that terrifying? Let me ask about your financials, ma'am. What brings you here? What quarter in this game would you say we are? And she's like, I'm not afraid to tell you everything about me. I'm 37. And he goes, oh, 37, so you're starting to get a little old. Let me guess, you have children now who are going to college. You have aging parents who don't have a good retirement plan, and you might have to take care of them. But you got to start thinking about your own retirement. All these financial pressures are starting to close in on you. And you happen to be in any debt, ma'am. Oh, you are? You owe a lot of money on your house and you don't know how to survive, and each month you're getting into more and more debt? Isn't that interesting? Isn't that slowly eating up your mind and your soul? And think about how you're going to retire, and your parents, you're not going to be able to take care of them, so they're going to die sick and lonely, and you're going to die
God.
sick and
It's
lonely.
like gaslighting
And
this poor
so
woman.
are your children. This is the future you're creating for them and the model you're setting up. So why do I love money? That's a good question. Are you ready to pay attention now?
I've been paying attention, you asshole.
And it's fucked up.
Earlier. Listen to
And after this, she feels the love and understands that financial literacy is there for her. And she gains faith in herself. Praise Kiyosaki. Thank you, Kiyosaki, for showing this woman the light.
Thank you,
Please
Kiyosaki.
open us in us. Please
Open us.
let us read more Rich
Thank you
Dad
for
and study
opening
your
us.
scripture. Amen. The next story, the one I really love, this comes up a couple of times. So, Rich Dad is in Vietnam, right? By the way, in the later books, he starts making up fucking crazy stories of what he's
Yeah.
doing in Vietnam. Like, he fucking goes across enemy lines to do a secret gold deal. And he starts making up, like, Indiana Jones
Human.
shit that's just not true.
I did like a cool flip and then
Yeah! Like, he talks about achieving enlightenment at this random point. Oh, who's coming in?
It's just me. Go ahead.
Oh, hey.
Go.
So he talks about, like, he sneaks behind enemy lines to do this secret gold deal. But it turns out she won't sell gold for less just because she's Vietnamese. Because I hate her, racism. And so then I left in my helicopter, but then the helicopter wouldn't turn on right, and so I achieved enlightenments. And then I realized I need to invest in gold because gold is God's money. And if you invest, every dollar you invest in gold will come back to you tenfold.
That's nice.
But anyways, the Vietnam story that might be true. So he's talking about one day he's kind of near enemy territory, right? and he sees a bunch of kids run up to his helicopter. Remember, he's a helicopter pilot. And he sees one of them start planting a bomb. He realizes, holy shit, it's Viet Cong. These aren't kids, these are the enemy. So he gets rid of the bomb and he pulls out a gun on the kid. And he's about to shoot him. But then he hears the voice of his mom go, you know, you've always been a bad kid. You need to, like, reduce that temper in you. And so instead of shooting the kid and does something that will scar him for the rest of his life, he pulls out a soccer ball and plays soccer with the kid until the sunset happens. And then they both go home happily.
I play soccer with a kid who played.
Yeah! And the kid brought all of his friends and they had a happy village soccer game.
Yeah,
They
this
saw the
happened.
humanity of each other.
This is how things played out. Yeah.
So, Robert Kiyosaki killed that kid.
Uh-oh.
Right?
Uh-oh,
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I mean, the kid was an enemy soldier who was planting a bomb on his... But, like, I feel like this is the, like, top of the Robert Kiyosaki Vietnam trauma iceberg. So, you're completely caught up. Robert Kiyosaki 2022. Is this it?
There's still more. Some shit probably happened like yesterday.
No. It gets so much deeper. Because I discovered, not only is there a Rich Dad Advisor series, but there's another Rich Dad Advisor series, as well as a small series of pamphlets he created for his old company. And there's also a bunch of books I didn't know existed that he was mass cranking out 2003 to 2004. And then there's a whole other podcast he was on. And then Robert Kiyosaki guest starred on a bunch of other people's podcasts and jumped on there. And then Sharon Lecter, remember her? So after Obama fired her, what she did was she took over the Napoleon Hill writing company. Remember Napoleon Hill?
Yeah,
Think and Grow Rich?
1930s rock.
So they haven't had a hit since the 30s, but the company still exists, so they hired her to start writing their books. And they referenced Kiyosaki a lot, so I was going to write all of them. And Kim Kiyosaki has her own YouTube channel now, and the vibe is horrifying.
The vibe is horrifying.
And then I stopped.
Yeah.
And then I was like, no more Kiyosaki. This is bad. Because I realized part of the reason that the rabbit hole kept growing was because I never wanted it to end. So, I feel like something you all might have been wondering about during this entire series is why have I listened to this much Kiyosaki?
For this lecture.
Yeah.
You learn, like I learned it was a scam, like a quarter book in, but something grabbed me. Because it just itched something deep in my brain. For years, I've had this really weird, like, corporate obsessed aesthetic. And I was always listening to things. Like, I have this weird obsession with Bang Energy, right? Because I love kind of like that corporate logo. Or I will watch 2.5 hours of ads. Or I will get enamored with, like, the aesthetic of stock images. And it's always been a weird, detrimental thing I've had that's actually, back when I was, like, fully going into film, it ruined a lot of my aesthetics because I kept going, we could do a good shot or we could make it look like as corporate as possible. And this book, like, scratched that itch primordially. I was just sitting there absorbed in the panic of this middle-aged man who realized he was marrying a narcissist, pretending to have financial advice so he could make more money and to funnel into her stuff as he tries to deal with his rich dad's trauma while he exploits millions of horribly financially anxious people pouring money into all of his scams. I loved it. It tasted great. And then I would listen to the Kiyosaki books, right? And I would try to watch any other piece of media. Michaela would be like, hey, do you want to watch a movie tonight? And I would sit down, and I'd be like, wow, this isn't Kiyosaki. Like, media just doesn't taste the same. It's not good anymore. I need more of this. And so I started listening to more and more Kiyosaki. And then I got to the point where I was listening to like 15 to 16 hours of Kiyosaki every day.
Why?
Which meant I was spending more time conscious listening to Kiyosaki than not.
What the hell?
And it was at the point where, like, if I was in a social situation, I hadn't had a Kiyosaki fix for a while, I would go to the bathroom and then listen to Robert Kiyosaki for like 4 minutes to get me through the break. I have 3 jobs right now. One is at Five Below, where I can listen to headphones, and I would just listen to Kiyosaki. The other is at a law firm where I make, like, marketing things, and it's a lot of visual work that's not too mentally intensive, so I listen to Robert Kiyosaki. And in my Ultius job, I would listen to Robert Kiyosaki. When Michaela fell asleep and I was still awake for 40 minutes, I would read Robert Kiyosaki. Just constantly. I would find a way to fill every minute. And at first it was kind of funny, and then I realized, wow, this is like literally consuming my life. So I came home, right? And at this point, it's worth mentioning that the first time I heard these books wasn't actually from these millionaires I talked to, it was from my dad. So my dad was really into Robert Kiyosaki, and he was like, Tyler, you need to read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Do it, Tyler, do it. And I was 11, so sure, you know what? So I read this book, thought it was okay, and didn't think about it too much more. But as I read all of these Robert Kiyosaki books, you know how he constantly talks about how you need to indoctrinate your children and teach them these lessons? I started recognizing those lessons. And I started realizing that so many traumatic moments from my childhood came from my dad doing the Robert Kiyosaki things on me. Because Robert Kiyosaki's like, your children don't have a rich dad like I do, so you need to be their rich dad. And you need to force them to go out there and start creating businesses. So
Control myself.
Alright, so now's the part where I
Oh,
trauma dump on
Kiyosaki.
you guys about Kiyosaki and how he fucked up my childhood.
Okay.
So my dad would have me make like dog treats, right? And sell in the park because I needed to start learning the value of being in the S quadrant and starting my own business.
Yeah.
And he'd be like, Tyler, you could hang out with your friends, or you could start building up business skills. It's your choice, Tyler, it's your time. But you're either choosing with your actions now to become rich or to become poor. And he would tell me how, like, the only reason I'm ever going to be poor is if I make the choices to make myself poor. Or he would have me tell me to set up businesses and start exploiting the other children, because that's what Robert Kiyosaki did in his examples. And then I would start up these businesses, right? For example, I would get a leaf blower and have other people blow leaves for me, and then I would take part of their money because I owned the leaf blower. And so people would get upset at me because I was ripping them off. And then my dad said, well, that's what you have to do as a businessman. My dad would also tell me things like, my mom was really big into like the Occupy Wall Street movement.
Yeah.
Because my mom's a hippie. And my dad was like, and think about how the rich people work for all this money. And she's just like, yeah, they should take the rich people's money for working for it. And so for a while, because my dad kept saying that, I like hated my mom and thought she deserved to like starve because she believed that the rich people should just give up their money for no reason. And where else do we go with Kiyosaki? Because he gets fucking deep. Yeah, I realized all of my aesthetic tastes and all these random desires to constantly keep making money were coming from Kiyosaki. And I also, my dad kept saying, because I always asked him, my dad, like, if you know all this about money, why aren't you rich? And he said, well, your mom doesn't want to be rich. And so every time I try, she, like, fucks it up. And I had no idea any of this was related to Kiyosaki. So I was over at my parents for a week, just living over there. And I was in my Kiyosaki addiction phase, so I was listening. So my parents overheard. And I accidentally started up like a 15-year-long battle.
Uh-oh.
It started in increments. My dad like whispering, you know, Robert Kiyosaki's right about a lot of things. And then I start learning. I find out not only did my dad read a few books, he went down the rabbit hole. He read the entire original series, all 70 hours.
Just as my father did.
And my
all
dad's
those years
dyslexic.
ago.
And so reading was a lot harder. And he lived before it was easy to get things for free on the internet, so he paid for these books.
That's crazy.
My dad also went to the Rich Dad seminars.
Uh-oh.
And he was fully hooked on OPM to start getting...
Opium?
Really hooked on opium.
to start buying real estate. And my mom was like, no. You cannot start taking money out of our children's college funds to invest in these Kiyosaki real estate projects.
Oh, God.
And to this day, my dad believes that's why he's not rich.
Because he
Thanks.
didn't take out of your college funds?
Because my mom stopped him from following Kiyosaki's advice.
Damn.
And that was such a weird thing to accidentally start up.
Because I was bored and I fucked my parents over. Said.
And apparently, my dad discovered... The reason I think Kiyosaki worked so hard was a couple of reasons. First of all, he discovered it in his like late 20s, early 30s. Some context on my parents. My mom comes from money, but hippie, so she like left it all. My mom and dad moved out into DC. They didn't know anybody in DC. They were moving here to pursue my mom's acting career. They had like... Yep. My mom didn't like the shallowness of like commercial theater, so she didn't want to do like LA or New York. She wanted to do where they were producing real art. So they went to Washington, D.C. And they moved with like maybe $7,000, no plan of like where to live or what jobs, and they kind of just figured it out. So, and they had me. And they weren't established at all. And my mom was going to get an abortion, but I was like, wait, no, Christian guilt, you can't do it. So I fucked up their finances because I'm a baby, they're 25, they know no one, they don't have a job, and they're out of money. So that's kind of a really fucked place to start financially.
Would be here right now.
And essentially the way my dad got out of it was he pretended to know more about computers than he did and lied until he actually learned what he was pretending to know, and that sparkled to a government career.
That is fucking crazy.
But when it was starting, there was a lot of anxiety around that, right? And he
Yeah.
was constantly worried about money. My dad also, as it's come to light, has an anxiety disorder. And so he was hyper obsessed on this. And so then comes along this man named Robert Kiyosaki with these books designed to prey on people with these fears. Kiyosaki is also very much written like the Bible. So I am preparing for a Western religions lecture. I think it's going to be really fun to go over the Bible, go over the Quran, go over the Book of Mormon, and kind of talk about the religions in parallel with like the history of their development.
And how they are like Robert Kiyosaki.
But basically, I'm just reading them for my general entertainment, and the things I read for my general reading is what becomes
The Bible.
lectures.
The Bible.
So anyways, I was reading the Bible and Kiyosaki at the same time until Kiyosaki owned my soul and I rejected God and ended up with Kiyosaki. Right?
I reject my humanity.
And reading these two next to each other really brings to light their similarities. So, Kiyosaki spends a shit ton of time talking about how bad poor people have it, and how you're not going to retire, and how if you don't have money, you're going to die just like how my mom died because we didn't have the money to pay her medical bills, and you're going to suffer, and it's going to be terrible. And he'll spend pages being in like this weird, horrible Cthulhu space of all the suffering. But then, for like maybe a paragraph, he'll give you a glimpse of luxury, but he says it's okay. Because I have all these cars and life is great. And do you know why life is great? Because I have faith and financial intelligence. You're not like all those people who don't believe in Rich Dad, right? You're not like them. If you were, you would suffer. Like all these paragraphs. But you're not like that, right? You believe.
You would suffer.
And the Bible's like that too. In the Old Testament, God talks a lot about how he's going to torture everybody and do horrible things.
Hey!
Welcome!
I'm the intruder to this place.
We're recording right now.
Brought more McDonald's.
Oh,
For
God.
me, you'll have to fight me for it.
Bro!
Continue.
Anyways, Robert Kiyosaki.
Another similarity in the Bible is that it's very, very repetitive. It's like the same few ideas repeated over and over till it just becomes like a weird soup you kind of meditate with.
Weird soup.
The next is that Robert Kiyosaki's constantly telling you to pass it down to your children. Constantly. And he's always talking about, and what do you say to your children? What activities are you making them do outside right now that'll benefit them later? Are you having them read my books and set up for their financial future right now? If not, you're a bad parent and you're sending your kid into hell.
And
What the fuck? They just beat up Hello Kitty.
Yeah, fuck Hello Kitty.
You're sending your kid to hell.
Yeah, I'm convinced he's trying to start a religion at this point.
No, he is. He is. And the Bible similarities also make a lot of sense because Sharon Lecter is the one writing it, and she's like a big, conservative mom. So of course her big inspiration, I think, is the Bible. That makes a lot of sense. My dad has hyper-religious parents and a lot of religious trauma. So I see why a book written like the Bible, all about his main anxiety in life, got him really sunk deep, and then he kind of exploded out. So when he got really into this, I was 4 years old. So from the second I could think in English, right, he was peddling Kiyosaki to me. He was telling me these virtues, and he got out of it by the time my brother and sister were old, because my mom was like, Kiyosaki's evil, you need to stop this shit. But I am uniquely traumatized, and reading Kiyosaki, it was like scratching this itch that had been implanted me in birth. And it was like, I was traumatized in a special way to allow me to enjoy this media in a way nobody else can. I'm having this transcendental experience with evil.
That's so crazy how this
Who does that? Who just is talking to their kids about new Robert Kiyosaki
It's
to a
so
4-year-old.
Now this guy you've never met has been infected.
Yeah, right.
Dude literally got like brainwashed.
Yeah, what the
So as
so
I started
crazy.
getting into the worst of the
Damn it,
Kiyosaki addiction, I started like noticing things.
Such a
Like for
personal
example, my dreams started being covered in satanic imagery.
God.
Imagine it's just like a picture of Kiyosaki with like Vaughn on the horns, like a little tail. It's just like.
I have like really intense dreams, so I'd be walking through like places I recognize, and all of a sudden symbols and blood would start dripping down
But
the
yo, it's
walls.
Omori.
It is Omori!
Oh my god.
Look at my lips.
I started having these voices in my head, like, Robert Kiyosaki is a false god. Bow to Kiyosaki. Pray to Kiyosaki.
He is our martyr.
False god.
And then I started getting really into Sleep Token because I wanted something with like a Satanist aesthetic. And started thinking, Robert Kiyosaki hurts to read. It's like boring and painful, but somehow it's the only thing that scratches this need I never knew I had before, but now I have. And I was like, wow, Robert Kiyosaki reminds me of sleep. Oh shit.
Oh my god!
Watch the Sleep Token lecture.
This is bad.
Vessel!
But don't let this happen to you.
Vessel worship!
Kill your parents early.
Are you still filled with the love you want?
Kill your parents early.
So I went, stop, no more. I saw the rabbit hole growing and growing and growing, and I cut myself off.
The young
Good boy.
The second I did this, the world literally became a different place. Like, I had what I call like Kiyosaki vision on, and all of a sudden, like, my entire aesthetic tastes have changed. Like, the way the neighborhood looks to me, things that used to like just be so beautiful and enamor me because they look so corporate and bad, now just don't look right. Now I look at Walmarts and I'm like, oh, that's evil.
What did you think of when you looked at Walmart?
Oh god, I'm normal
Okay,
again.
honestly, I used to look at Walmarts and I would just feel the strange beauty in it.
Oh, that's B
That's what I
coordinate.
And
say.
then
then
I came
I
and
would go,
say, this
no,
is bad.
no, that's bad. And then you said, no, it's not. And now you're giving a lecture about why I'm right. That's it.
Gaslight, keep girl boss.
God, just take 16 hours of your day. Just be like me.
I imagine you show up to the first date and you just slam.
Slam poor kid woman. Poor dad, rich dad.
Playing cash
I
flow,
saw
baby.
this Instagram post once and it was like, you go on a date and ask them what their favorite book is, they answer and you immediately leave, what's the book? And I saw Rich Dad Poor Dad in the comments like 8 times.
I hand my date diary, but won't be kid.
My favorite book is The Great Gatsby.
I really
You're
relate
cool,
to-
I like you.
Thank
to
you.
Jay Gatsby as a
I don't like The Great Gatsby. I just think it's cool because you like a really random book that not many people would say is their favorite book.
Yeah.
Gay Gatsby's kind of based.
Gay Gatsby's very based.
Gay Nick.
Gay-
It's just a fucking
gay
great
Nick,
I
yeah.
only vaguely remember like what
Isn't
happened.
Alright, so my conclusion to all of that is Kiyosaki's evil. Like, literally, he is an agent of Satan. Who, like, kisses down at Trump's feet. He projects pain into the world. What his books do is they take advantage of people who are desperate for money and scared.
And I mean, the Bible says money's the root of all evil.
Yeah. Like my dad, right? And then it tells them that the reason you're poor is because you're lazy. Something Kiyosaki keeps bringing up is the people diet. The people you're around determine your ability to make money. So if you're around people who are holding you back, and sometimes those might be your best friends or even your spouse, and if they're holding you back from truly going out and investing in money, you need to cut them out of your life. You need to cut everyone out of your life who is not in your Kiyosaki study group.
Actual cult. Actual cult vibes.
Yes! Remember when he said the bottom of the Kiyosaki rabbit hole is hell?
No,
Yeah.
no, no,
Yes.
no,
Yep.
no.
We're in hell. Bye.
Evil. And whenever I look in these YouTube comments or these Reddit threads and people are talking about how this book changed their life and how they're going to make sure their kids read it, I kind of like, die inside a little. Because I'm like, holy shit, this is going to make an entire generation of kids hate themselves again for being poor. It's going to make them hate every poor person, and when they suddenly realize just because they know the word asset and liability, they're not millionaires, it's going to make them hate themselves. And that's a shit thing to put onto a kid. Alright,
Oh.
so Robert Kiyosaki, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At at the end of the day, there is something that has to be said. Though Robert Kiyosaki is rich. Verifiably, he is $100 million. So what is the secret? What did Robert Kiyosaki do to become rich?
He had a wife that knew what she was doing.
That's definitely part of it. But I think
He scammed
Roland,
people.
I mean, hey, Tyler, is a human soul an asset or a liability?
is it bringing money into your pocket?
I mean, you lose money by like living.
True
So.
charity is causing you to give away.
So
liability.
the message at the end of the day is just give up, kill yourself, die.
I feel
Stop
like
trying.
Robert's secret to becoming rich is desperately wanting to be rich. Because from a young age, going to that school really incited that need in him, right? And his mom's medical bills made him desperate for money, and that love of money is carried with him his entire life. In fact, it made him find his wife. He found a woman who loved money more than he did. That's how much he loves money.
Kind of tragic.
There's like a villain origin story.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
The love of money is the root of all evil. But because he needed money so much and is still out there trying to make more and more and more of it, he succeeds. Because if you completely devote yourself to something like this, you're probably going to do okay at it. So if you really want to be rich, kill yourself. Not like literally kill yourself, but get rid of everything that makes you an individual and turn yourself into nothing but more money machine.
I'm good, thanks.
Yeah.
Make yourself pure fucking greed.
I like sitting at home and
like
like jerking off or whatever. It's good life. It's better, I think.
So, I feel like at the end of this, we come away kind of hating Kiyosaki. Kiyosaki fucking sucks.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
there has been some positive influences of Kiyosaki on my life. Money's important.
Well, in this society, yes.
Yeah, money is absolutely something you should think about. Retirement is absolutely something that should be on your minds. Obviously, don't stress out about it. Think about, money-wise, what you're going to do as an adult. I like Roth IRAs. I think they're great. Pay attention to 401ks. Another one I think is really promising. One day I might have money. I'll probably look into this. It's REITs. So an REIT, Real Estate Investment Trust. REIT. So what you do is basically, it's like a mutual fund for real estate. So you're signing up with thousands of other people to buy a share of something, and then when they pay rent, you get a share of the rent.
That one's like one of my favorites.
So essentially, there's no risk as the property management company's owning it, so you just pay in and you get a little bit of dividends each month. A lot of cool stuff like this. Think about money. I think part of the reason, I think one of those impactful choices I made was when I was going to college for film. I got accepted into 2 schools. One was Drexel, and Drexel's a really good school.
Yo, my cousin goes to Drexel. Shout out to
Drexel
them.
is fucking based. They had an amazing film program. They were flying people out to Ireland to just get shots for their movie.
Oh my god.
Drexel was also $60,000 a semester.
Yeah.
They gave me a $40,000 a semester scholarship, which would have only made it $20,000 a semester.
That's not that bad.
But that's still a lot. And so I went to Towson. Towson is an okay school. It is the best film school in Maryland. But that's like best crab cakes in North Dakota. And to be honest, there were a lot of bad teachers at Towson who were like film students who graduated, completely failed, didn't know what else to do in life, so they taught at Towson. There is a disturbing amount of that. And the quality of my education did suffer, but I didn't get into debt. Because I was so scared of debt. Because Robert Kiyosaki and the need for money was drilled into me as a kid. So some good came out of this. You should be worried about money, or otherwise poverty will overtake you, and it can scratch at your soul and turn you into a desperate hustle for money, which happens to a lot of adults. So pay attention. Okay. And the note to end this off on, don't make your life about money. Don't make your kid's life about money. Look at what the fuck Robert Kiyosaki has done to so many people's souls. And look at what Robert Kiyosaki is still doing. Robert Kiyosaki is still at large. He is still posting. He has millions of views, commenters supporting him every step he takes. And there will always be scam artists like this out there. But it's